America, this land that I love, and stand beside her and guide her through the night with your light from above, and from the mountains to the prairies and to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join as Colonel David P. Garfield, commander of the 482nd Fighter Wing Homestead Air Reserve Base, leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Presenting our nation's colors today is the 482nd Security Forces Color Guard. Here to offer today's invocation is Pastor Sammy Flores from Christ Fellowship.
Let us pray together. Lord, thank you so much for this day that brings us together. We pray, Lord, that you would be with the drivers, keep them safe, and bless them and their families. And we pray, Lord, that you would be with our military. We thank you for those who serve and for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. We pray that you would be with their families. Lord, God bless this evening. Bless the United States. We thank you for all of this. In your name we pray. Amen.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome Senior Master Sergeant Ryan Carson of the United States Air Force.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, once so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars to the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
This race is more than a season finale. It's a championship fight and a goodbye tour all rolled into one. When we come back, we will rejoin Bob Costas and get you ready for Championship Sunday.
Everybody ready, set, go. Rev it up and let's roll. There's a party in the fast lane. Got my hands on the wheel and I'm flying. Heartbeat loud as the thunder rolls. Riding in on the stampede of lightning. I'm bringing back the sunshine. Bringing back the sunshine. Baby, it's about time. Oh, bring it back. Oh,
So we are moments away from the final NASCAR race of the season and from finding out who will be crowned this year's champion. 4 drivers are vying for that top spot with plenty of subplots. 3 of the drivers among that final 4 have lifted the trophy before, but the 4th has had the most success this season. They are all among the potential successors to the sport's most popular figure. After 630 races, today marks Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s final 400 miles. What started as a young boy in North Carolina, watching his father win 7 NASCAR championships, comes to a close here today in Miami. With the call of the NASCAR title race, Rick Allen, Jeff Burton, and Steve Letarte. Rick?
Thanks, Bob. And I want to break down for the final time, before the green flag flies, the championship 4.
Well, let's start with Martin Truex Jr. Many people think he's the favorite. 7 wins this season, 6 of those on mile-and-a-half racetracks, just like this one. But he's going to have to beat 3 champions if he wants to get his first championship.
Well, and Jeff, and I actually think the favorite of the day is the 2015 champion, Kyle Busch. He has 5 wins this season, but all 5 in the second half of the year, 3 of which in the playoffs. I think this is his day. He's the only one that has showed that he can go toe-to-toe with this 78 car on the mile-and-a-half tracks. But if there's ever been an underdog in a heavyweight fight, it has to be the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Self-admittedly, they haven't had the speed in their car, but their blue-collar work ethic and their creativity on top of the pit box has got them to the championship 4. Will it be enough to get another championship for the 2012 champion?
Yeah, and how about Kevin Harvick, the tough, hard-nosed veteran? He's willing to push the issue. We've seen that. In his last win at Texas, he took it away from Martin Truex Jr. late race pass, and he pointed to that as proof that he can win this championship.
You guys use the word blue collar, and I think all 4 of those drivers are definitely going to take a blue collar attitude to this championship. They'll do whatever it takes to get to victory lane and win the championship. And of course, blue collar definitely describes a driver making his final start. Dale Earnhardt Jr., what an incredible season he has had, and this being his final race. We'll all watch very closely as he makes these 400 miles his final of his career. Before the green flag flies, let's get a few updates from pit road. We'll start with Parker Kligerman.
Oh, Rick, when Brad Keselowski and Paul Wolfe came into this very track to win their first championship in 2012, they were nervous. But now they tell me they're not. Why? Because of the speed of this race car. They don't only think they can compete, they think they can win, Kelly.
When I asked Kevin Harvick's teammates to describe him as a competitor, they chose words like animal, amazing, focused, and fighter. Well, you can add clutch to that list. Kevin Harvick thrives in these situations, saying there's nothing better than these moments and succeeding in them. He starts this one 9th, Dave.
Kyle Busch has not won on a mile-and-a-half track yet this season, but he told me earlier that he can today because this track is so different. He won this race and the championship 2 years ago, Marty.
Dave, you would think being the favorite adds pressure to Martin Truex Jr. He told me earlier this week that's absolutely not the case. He said we came from nobodies 3 years ago to weekly contenders to now the favorites to win the title. So there's no pressure on us, in my opinion, because we'll be back in this spot for years to come. Can Truex win the title today? We'll find out, but it all starts by cranking the engines here in Miami.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, professional cyclist, and reigning Tour de France champion, Chris Froome.
Fire when you're ready, Kevin. 10-4. Yeah.
39 drivers are going to try to fight for the checkered flag at the end of this race, but only 4 have a shot at the championship.
Hello, Homestead. This is Kevin Harvick making a reservation for the championship for...
Tonight he earns his first Cup title.
Bring it home, champ. Well, I can't believe our luck anymore.
It's the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series Ford Ecoboost 400 from Homestead-Miami Speedway. An absolutely perfect afternoon. As Bob mentioned earlier, the temperature in the mid-80s. The drivers strapped in, the engines are fired, and now these 39 drivers are in their comfort zone. But the 4 drivers fighting for a championship, knowing that the one thing they have to do, the one way to win the championship, is to finish in front of the other 3. That is a tall task to ask 3 former champions and 1 regular season champion looking for his first title. Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his final start, possibly the final start for Matt Kenseth. Dale Earnhardt Jr. asked if Matt Kenseth would join him at the back of the pack, rolling off last, symbolic of their final run. Possibly the 2 came into the sport together, joined the Cup Series in 2000, running for Rookie of the Year. It ended up being Matt Kenseth who was Rookie of the Year that year, and then 14 consecutive years Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the most popular driver in NASCAR. Crews lined up along pit road, paying respect. One final good luck to their drivers.
Last opportunity for some drivers with these teams. A lot of things change at the end of years, and drivers moving on and team members moving on.
See Danica Patrick there, also done full-time, and now she'd run the Daytona 500 next year, but this will be her last start as a full-time Cup driver.
Be interesting to see these crews as we'll watch Matt Kenseth and Dale Earnhardt Jr. roll by for the final time.
Two drivers that have the respect of the garage for how they behave on the racetrack and off the racetrack.
And the crews aren't just their crews. These are crews from every team, reminiscent of when Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s dad, Dale Earnhardt Sr., won the Daytona 500, and every crew member came out onto pit road to congratulate him for that. Well, this is saying thank you for a career.
Knowing Dale Jr. as well as I do, I think this is going to mean more than anything. He talked to Bob about how important the relationships were that he's formed throughout the garage area, and that can be with his own crew and many of these crew members.
I think the greatest compliment a person can have is the respect of your peers, and that's what you see right here.
He's only halfway down pit road. He still has the other half of the crews that are standing there waiting to say thank you. Drivers and dignitaries before he climbed in the car all came up and acknowledged Dale Earnhardt Jr. And now as he's nearing the final pit box, he'll roll out onto the track for the final time. Let's take a look at today's starting grid, brought to you by Ford. Roll across the top of the screen. In row one, it's Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. has 6 wins on mile-and-a-half tracks this year. In row two, Kyle Busch, another Championship 4 contender, the 2015 champion, looking for his second title.
In row three, Brad Keselowski, 2012 champion. Many consider him the underdog today, starting next to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Behind them, Kyle Larson, 4 wins this season. And Kurt Busch, plans still unknown for Kurt in 2018.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick and Daniel Suarez make up row 5. Harvick, one of the Championship 4 contenders. Row 6, we see Ryan Blaney and Trevor Bayne. Ryan Blaney making his final start for the Wood Brothers.
Thank you, Dale Jr. We see that. Row 7, it's Jamie McMurray and Eric Jones. He's the 21-year-old leading the Rookie of the Year standings. And then back in row 8, Paul Menard and Clint Bowyer. And while they are making their way around this mile-and-a-half track here in Miami, the fans showing their respect to Dale Earnhardt Jr. Let's dial up his radio.
Hey, Dale, Jeff Burton, NBC booth, you with us?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing great. An emotional day for you. What do you have to say to the fans?
Hey, I just want to thank everybody that's had an impact on my career. I've made friendships and relationships that'll last a lifetime, and I'm just so thankful for that. And the fans that are here and that are at home watching, they made all this possible. And what I mean by that is that their support of my career led up to every opportunity I've ever had, whether it be working with one of the greatest companies and owners in the business, partnering with amazing sponsors. It's a long list of those. All those opportunities happen because of that fan support, and that's why we wanted to show them appreciation all year. It's a big day for NASCAR, and I hope that fans see a great race. No matter who wins the championship, we're going to have one of the best race car drivers in the world representing the sport as our champion. I know that.
Well, buddy, I'm sure all your fans would like to say thank you. We'd like to say thanks from up here in the booth. It's been fun to watch. Have a great final race.
Guys, we're going to have some fun next year. Everybody enjoy tonight.
Dale Jr. referencing next year, he'll actually join us up here in the booth to call the races starting in 2018. But right now, he's ready to enjoy his final race. We're going to ride along with a few different drivers today.
Well, let's just say with Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's starting 24th position, going to have to follow the back with the nationwide cam.
The 19 car of Daniel Suarez will have the Coca-Cola onboard camera starting in the 10th position.
And we're lucky enough to be with the championship contenders, Kevin Harvick with the Jimmy John's cam.
As you mentioned, Rick, another one of the championship 4, Brad Keselowski with the Ford Performance onboard camera. And then on the front row, Kyle Busch with the Sunoco onboard camera.
And Martin Truex Jr., Furniture Row cam.
Today's aerial coverage is provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. So what will it take to win the championship? Well, you've got to take on Homestead-Miami Speedway. Let's break down this race.
Well, it's a very tough racetrack. Mile-and-a-half oval, 267 laps, 400.5 miles.
Yeah, Jeff, and those 267 laps will be broken down into stages. 80 laps for stage 1 and stage 2, 107 lap final stage.
And the best finish wins the championship. The stage finishes do not matter in this race. Whoever finishes in front of who at the end of the race, that will be the 2017 champion.
For more updates before the green flag, let's go back to Parker Kligerman.
Well, guys, a little-known story about Brad Keselowski and his crew chief, Paul Wolfe. When Brad Keselowski was joining Team Penske at the end of 2009, he knew he was putting together an Xfinity program. He handpicked Paul Wolfe from another Xfinity team. Paul told him no the first time, but as the year went on, Paul's current job went away, and he said, you know what, I'll join you there. I can build a team with you. And now they're fighting for their second Cup Series championship, Callie.
Well, 3 months ago, Kevin Harvick and this Ford team didn't even think they'd be in the conversation of getting to the championship 4. But when the playoffs kicked off, this team came to life. They are the latest winners on a mile-and-a-half track, having scored that pivotal win at Texas just 2 weeks ago. They now think they have the best team, best car, best driver to win it today, Dave.
Kelly, one of the most unique aspects of this championship race is the fact that it starts in the heat of the day and goes into the cool of the evening. I asked Kyle Busch's spotter, Tony Hirschman, whether he'd like Busch better during the day or whether he thought he would be better at the night. He said, I like him in both conditions, and he said it with a big grin, Marty.
Dave, I asked Martin Truex Jr. to sort of summarize the moment that he's up against today. He said, you know, listen, if I think about my career, I've made it further in racing than I ever thought possible. This season has been an incredible ride, and I've intentionally tried to slow down and enjoy those moments. He has 14 career wins. 7 of them have come this year. But he said when it comes to the championship, it's hard not to look at the names on that list and want to be a part of it. He's the only one of the championship 4 who has not won a title, and he told me before he climbed in the car, it's my time. Rick?
Well, right now on NBCSN, you can watch Hot Pass, which is live simultaneous coverage dedicated to each of the championship 4 drivers, as well as Dale Earnhardt Jr. in his final race. Lee Diffie and Dale Jarrett will have the call on Hot Pass. We heard Dave mention the changing of the track. Sunset will be 5:31 this evening. There'll be about an hour of racing that will be under the lights here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Want to listen in to Brad Keselowski's radio.
Good luck down there, buddy. A lot of fans here want you to win this thing. Paul and the whole team done a terrific job this year. One board and check the box here, and we'll have a little fun tonight, so good luck.
That's the captain, Roger Penske, team owner for Brad Keselowski, as well as Joey Logano. So much success in all of motorsports from that organization. Brad Keselowski was able to give Roger Penske his first Cup championship. He's looking to give him his second. Up front, Denny Hamlin has chosen the outside line to start this race. As the pole winner, he gets to choose either the inside or outside, and the outside was what he decided was going to be the best for the start of this race.
Rick, it's been a hectic season, a hectic week, a hectic weekend with pressure and everything on the line, but now it's time to race. They finally get to get in their office and go to work.
Pace car moves over. Field now in the hands of Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. making up the front row. This is it. 400 miles separate one of these 4 drivers from a championship. Green flag is in the air from Miami. It didn't take a half a lap for Martin Truex Jr. to decide he was going to lead lap 1.
Denny Hamlin chose the bottom of the racetrack to start, the top of the racetrack to start this race. It did not work out for him very well. As this race develops, though, you're going to see the grooves move around. See the 18 car, Kyle Busch, he's used the bottom also to get around the 11.
Early on, we'll talk about the fact that tires are so important. And the first few laps, they're still good in the tires, but those wear off quickly. To the matter, they will go from running laps around 31 seconds, high 31 seconds, all the way to 34 seconds. They'll lose almost 2.5 seconds per lap after 10 to 15 laps on these tires.
And I think it's important. You know, we're nowhere near the end of the race, but right now the 18 and the 78, they're together. They can start comparing themselves against each other. Where is that guy better than me? Where do we need to start working to make my race car better so I can ultimately beat him?
Again, we talked about the track changing. Here in a little while, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, the sun is going to become a little bit of a burden for these drivers. As they come out of turn 4 and go down the front stretch, that sun will be directly in their eyes. Toyota 1, 2, and 3. Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Hamlin. And a little further back, the first Chevrolet of Kyle Larson, Kenseth, Harvick, Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Stenhouse Jr., and Blaney all in the top 10.
And you already see one of the challenges of this racetrack with the multiple grooves that you've talked about is on corner exit right here. Everyone has to somewhat play nice. You see right there, Kyle Busch had to leave a lane for the 11 of Denny Hamlin. He was coming with so much more speed. You have to be careful. Miscommunication between you and your spotter can easily end up in an accident.
And the caution comes out. Looks like in turn 2, smoking car. Oh, definitely the 83 hard into the wall. Joey Gase, a lot of damage to the right side.
Minor do right sides only, they're sending them.
Sparks flying, right front tire
Let's
down.
take a look at it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to like what they see when they get it in there. That's major impact.
An early break. We talk about how important tires are. Only 5 laps complete on lap 6 when Joey Gase going into turn 1 here. Up the track he goes hard to the right and into the wall.
Welcome back to Homestead-Miami Speedway. We're one of the Championship 4 of Brad Keselowski just pitted. He was very loose on entry, tight in the center, and loose off the corner. It fell back about 2 spots on the start, and so trying to regain some of that position with new tires, guys.
And Brad was the only one of the Championship 4 that came to pit road. He was the furthest back of the 4. Truex Jr. currently out front. Kyle Busch running 3rd. Kevin Harvick was 5th. Keselowski was back in 8th when he opted to come to pit road.
I think Brad's decision was a little bit easier because Kyle Larson came in front of him. So I think Kyle Larson kind of made the decision, and at that point, Brad didn't want to be the last guy on old tires.
So already off sequence, Brad Keselowski. We'll see how it works. And cars still working their way around the 1.5 miles as we're under caution. Brad Keselowski, again, the only one of the Championship 4 to make his way onto pit road under this first caution of the day. NASCAR Drive, that's NASCAR.com's live race day companion. It's now available on your mobile device. You never miss a lap with NASCAR Drive. Visit NASCAR.com/drive from your PC, tablet, or mobile device. So once they have cycled through and back across the start-finish line, Brad Keselowski is going to restart in the 13th position. Kyle Larson will restart 12th. We'll see just how important those 8 laps have been on those tires, because Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, as well as quite a few others behind him will have fresher tires than the 11 that are in front of them.
And perhaps more of a gain with this stop than if you had a normal 4-lap stop, because these are the tires that the car is qualified on as well. And with, so you have 4 heat cycles on these tires, so a big opportunity to make a gain. But the reason everybody didn't pit, Steve, is because they're worried about running out of tires in this race.
That's absolutely right. Everyone wants tires after 5 laps. They are an advantage. But with only 11 total sets to run the 400-mile distance, Rick, the last thing these competitors want to do is burn them up too early, get to the last 20 or 25 laps, lucky enough to get a yellow and have no tires to put on.
We'll see how big of an advantage it is for Brad Keselowski. He'll be restarting 13th. Remember, he came to pit road in 8th. So if he gets above 8th through this run, which we're guessing he will.
He'll be 8th on the backstretch. That's my prediction.
He will definitely have a positive as far as making his way onto pit road.
He's got to be smart working his way up through the field, though. It's a long race. Don't want to get damaged.
The field approaching the Geico restart zone from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Keep our eye on the white number 2 as he is already making his way through the field, as well as the 42 of Kyle Larson. Those fresher tires and just how important they are as they rocket down the backstretch.
And Kevin Harvick got by the 18 of Kyle Busch.
3 wide. Brad Keselowski sliding just to the outside of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Oh, he's up to 7th, Steve.
Well, you're going to instantly see just how much of an advantage it is as he easily passes the 18 of Kyle Busch and will be looking to attack the 4 of Kevin Harvick on the backstretch.
And right on by. Brad Keselowski taking advantage of those 4 good years.
But this is what the other crew chiefs knew. This is why they wanted to make sure they have them for the end of the race. But I like this call for Brad Keselowski. Jeff, we talked at the top of the show about he perhaps has to race this like the underdog. That would be why he does something different. Paul Wolfe getting off sequence early, giving his driver an opportunity, trying to make something happen.
Any surprise?
No.
Paul Wolfe, he's willing to gamble. He's willing to get off sequence and try things. And many times they find a way to make it work.
Brad Keselowski now trying to take the spot away from the 11 of Denny Hamlin. There's Paul Wolfe.
Yeah, the second one in the stage. Engineer to his left, Paul Wolfe to his right, the one in the shadows. Stone face there sitting in the middle, just focused on the task at hand, understanding all the complexity of these strategies, these tires, these stages. It's become more difficult for crew chiefs this year for sure.
And the crew chiefs watch our broadcast. So right now they're watching their cars make their way around the track via this broadcast. Parker.
Guys, I'm actually interested that they did this, and it's surprised a little bit because when I talked to Paul Wolfe this morning, he told me, you know, when we go through these first 2 stages, then we'll evaluate how much risk we want to take strategy-wise, how much we want to get off sequence if we need to do that. So I'm surprised they did it this early in the race.
I think he was forced into it by the move of Kyle Larson. I mean, you look at timing and scoring. I look at cars like Ryan Newman in 24th. He chose not to pit. Perhaps Ryan Blaney the same way, losing track position. So, Marty, I think they had to come to pit road when they saw the car in front of them pit.
That's right. You should be able to, you should follow those cars down pit road because of how valuable those tires are. And you see Martin Truex Jr. getting passed by those fresher tires. Situational awareness. We talk about that a lot, Steve, right? So Cole Pearn on top of the box said, hey, these tires are coming. Don't worry. They put on fresher tires. They're going to go by you. But remember, we have an extra set later in the race. So Cole Pearn banking that extra set will be more valuable than taking the tires here so early in the race.
The team started with a set of tires on the car that they used for qualifying on Friday, and then 10 sets of tires in their pits. And you look at the craziness of the mob of cars back here that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is working his way through.
And that's where the Championship 4 don't want to get to. You see there's just no real estate back here, and you have to just make compromise off the corner exit lap after lap.
Lucky enough to ride along with Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got that great helmet cam that we'll get a chance to watch. One thing that he does so well throughout his entire career, and I'm pretty sure you'll see it today, is he runs against that wall as good as anybody. Enters a corner close to it, and he'll keep the right side right next to it all the way through the corner.
And Jeff, of course, starting in the back like they did, it was a good opportunity to drop down and take 4 fresh tires and adjust on that race car. Junior did not like the handling. And those tires, by the way, just had a couple of qualifying laps on them. Remember, they dropped out of qualifying early, so they'll save that set, re-glue the lug nuts, and maybe during a green flag run, put them on later because sets are so precious.
And already we saw how much the sun is playing into these drivers not being able to see well as they go into turn 1 when we were riding along with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Probably the biggest loser from this restart has been the 18 of Kyle Busch. He restarted 3rd, now has fallen all the way back to 12th.
And the problem is when he looks in his rearview mirror and sees Clint Boyer, A.J. Allmendinger, Austin Dillon, all of those cars are on those fresher tires. So it's major defense mode for Kyle Busch.
Dave.
And Ricky reported to his crew just moments ago that the car doesn't want to handle going into the corner, across the middle, or off of the corner. Part of that is the old tires, but knowing he was restarting where he was, his spotter, Tony Hirschman, said, I see you got your hands full. Take care of it till we get those fresh tires a little later.
Yeah, certainly the way his car's handling compared to these guys is because of old tires, but Truex Jr. on old tires, he's in 4th, Harvick is in 7th. They have not fallen back through the field as badly as Kyle Busch has.
Kyle Busch running right up against the wall, just as we see Matt Kenseth in the 20 also running right up against the wall. Matt Kenseth and Dale Earnhardt Jr. possibly making their final start as far as Matt Kenseth, but running the paint schemes that they started their Cup careers with. As we see the 18 utilizing that high line right up against the wall.
This racetrack gets so slick, Steve. It's very abrasive. Each tire's up. Right now, he is on edge, and you'll see as this race evolves that he will get that right side directly against the wall, just like he is right there, but around the entire corner. But the risk in doing that is making contact. And we saw some cars yesterday make contact with the wall, and when they did, they immediately got tire rub. So it's very, very dangerous to put your car there right now with 248 laps to go.
Well, it was something to prove. Kyle Larson in this 42 car, not only has he had a tremendous year, but fell out at Kansas with that engine failure. He's failed to finish the last 4 races. Jeff, you've said it's time for him to turn the end of this season around, and what better track to do it? Remember last year, he led 132 laps, ended up finishing second to the eventual champion, Jimmy Johnson, who only led the final 3.
And every year in the elimination format to determine the champion, it has been the eventual champion who's won the race. But the possibility exists. That may change today. Kyle Larson out in front. Parker.
And guys, are we surprised at the line that Kyle Larson's running right up next to that wall? Speaking to his crew chief, Chad Johnson, I asked him about that. He said, you know, I wish he would run just a little bit off of it, maybe 3 to 4 feet off it just at the beginning to protect that race car. But he told me we did some special things on the right side of that race car for when he does get in the wall, knowing he's going to run up next to it. We've done some things with the crush panels and to stop those fenders from being able to get into those tires. And I found that pretty interesting that they've done that.
Literally inches off the wall. Kyle Larson trying to finish out the 2017 season on a positive note as he's out front. Brad Keselowski leading the championship 4. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Monster Energy, unleash the beast. And by Untuck It, shirts designed to be worn untucked. Untuckit.com. Join the Fast and Furious family for a full-throttle, high-octane experience, right along with Dom, Letty, Hobbs, and the rest of the crew as they face off against an unforeseen enemy in Fast and Furious Supercharged. That's coming to Universal Studios Florida in the spring of 2018. Right now, the championship 4 and where they're currently running, Keselowski is second. Martin Truex Jr. has fallen to 4th, Kevin Harvick 7th, and Kyle Busch 11th. So Kyle Busch has plateaued, kind of leveled out after he fell back to 13th, been able to work back up to 11th.
Yeah, even better than just plateaued. He has gained a few spots back, as you just mentioned, which I'm very impressed with. All of these championship 4s will be tested at different points during the day. This was an early test for Kyle Busch, and he settled in, much like Martin Truex Jr. here as well. He's been kind of under attack by the 22 of Joey Logano, Marty, but he's kind of hold serve with him. It looks like the 22 may clear him here. Nope. And 78 is still going to have the momentum around the top.
And Steve, it's been like that for a few laps for Martin Truex Jr. This lap car certainly going to play a factor, though, but he's done a fantastic job of hanging on to 4th or 5th, wherever it winds up being for those championship 4 that did not pit. Obviously, it's going to be 5th right there. If you look on the left-hand side of your screen, Martin Truex Jr. is wearing a visor on the top of his helmet. He's doing that for the first time ever in his career. He said the sun was so bad. We talked about that sunset and how bad it is for the drivers. It's been so bad in practice. He tried it in final practice and said, you know what, we're going to go with it. I'll run it in today's race. And Jeff, for a team that's talked all week long about doing everything they're saying they have done all year long, why would you try something different in a championship race like that?
Yeah, you saw his hand out the window gesturing to the 15 car, Reed Sorensen. He did not like that the 15 didn't give him his lane. He expressed his displeasure. That's when the 22 got by him. But interesting thing I'm seeing with Martin Truex Jr. 1 and 2, he's in the middle of the racetrack, relatively safe. But as he drives into 3 and 4, with 237 laps to go, look where he is. He drives the car and gets it right against the wall. And this is the danger zone that we've talked about. This is where you've got to be so careful not to get into that wall, but that's where he's the fastest, and that's where he wants to put the car. But if he misses his lines at all, he's going to get into the wall and cause damage.
Before the race started, we heard Brad Keselowski talk on the set with Krista, Kyle, and DJ about the fact that he had to be perfect. He knew he was going to be running up against the wall. He had to put a perfect race together if he was going to win the championship. Well, right now, Brad Keselowski is leading the championship 4. Martin Truex Jr. second in that group. Harvick is 3rd. Kyle Busch is 4th. But Martin Truex Jr. has been dominant on mile-and-a-half tracks. But we have documented that this isn't your typical mile-and-a-half track.
It's a very slick racetrack. Most mile-and-a-halves have more grip than this, but a different approach by the 4 car of Kevin Harvick. Look where he's running. He's on the very bottom of the racetrack in 1 and 2, where we saw Truex in the middle of the racetrack. Very, very safe place to be. But as he drives down the back straightaway and he drives into turn 3, watch where he goes. He is nowhere near the wall, giving himself plenty of cushion.
And Jeff, as you mentioned that, Kevin Harvick spoke about running near the wall here at Homestead.
I don't think I'll ever take the last 6 inches, because I think as you look at this particular aero package, I think as you go through the day, there's really no reason to get right up against the wall. It'll be the fastest way around during the day. But, you know, I think you do what you can until it gets to be dark. And as it gets dark, Kyle Larson will probably, if the right side's still on his car, he'll probably still be the fastest guy right up against the wall. But for me, I think that I don't think that once it gets dark, I don't think the fastest line will be 6 inches from the wall.
And that's his opinion about how this racetrack's going to change. And he took that opinion and put it on the racetrack all weekend long. He never really got his car against the wall. When we look at his lap times, he was very, very fast compared to the other championship contenders, but he was doing it in a fashion that really had no risk. Or I shouldn't say no risk. Driving a race car is always full of risk, but not as much risk as running it against the wall. And he came into this weekend with that strategy, and he stuck to it.
Well, and Jeff, when I talked to crew chief Rodney Childers and asked him how he wanted Kevin to run the early stages of this race, he said, look, the first half of this is just seeing what the car will give us, what we can get. You have to take care of the car. And he said also we don't want to use too many tires. We want to save extra sets for late, which is why they did not pit when we had that first caution. This is a team that feels like their best strength is on the long run. Rodney Childers said, hey, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if this thing went green the whole way.
And the one thing we do know is that there will be at least 2 more cautions, because at the end of every stage there'll be a caution. First one coming at lap 80 and then the second one at lap 160. Let's listen into spotter communication from the 42 team.
3350, 43 behind, ran a lane lower than usually 3 and 4. 11 and 48 are the only other ones as high as you right now. About a lane and a half off the wall through 1 and 2 right now consistently, and about a half a lane off the wall through 3 and 4. Still not all the way up to it.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less.
Yeah, just great information of what other people are doing. Obviously, they know what they're doing and where he wants to put his race car. And no surprise to everyone on the field. You heard Kevin Harvick say, hey, you know where he's going to be running. But just a little bit of information. You see a problem with the 48 of Jimmy Johnson.
A little bit slower on the track. Jimmy Johnson, 7-time champion. Looks as though he's about to head to pit road here, which is tricky to get on here at Homestead-Miami.
I think it's the right rear.
Right rear completely down. And you see where he has got into the wall.
And even though this is an issue for the 48, and that's why he's on pit road, Dave, I expect other cars to come relatively soon.
We're in that window, aren't we, Steve? He hit the wall just about 20 laps ago, and because there was no smoke coming out the back and the spotter couldn't see any, he stayed on the track, but clearly damage was done to that Goodyear Eagle on the right rear. It now is down. They'll change 4 and fill him full of Sunoco fuel, send him on his way.
Sure enough, you called it. The 20 of Matt Kenseth on pit road, as is Martin Truex Jr. in the 78. He brought the 4 of Kevin Harvick with him. Now it's on the crews. Perfect stops. Marty.
Martin came on the radio about 5 laps ago, said, I don't know what's going on, but the brakes were, quote, laggy. We'll have to find out what's going on with the brakes on the 78 car. He said early in the run, the car was just a little bit too tight, but then it got better the longer they ran, Kelly.
Same for the 4 of Kevin Harvick. He started off tight through the center. By the end, said he just really needed some rear grip. They gave him 4 fresh Goodyear tires, a little tape on the grill for the 4, Parker.
Brad Keselowski pit out in the second place position, fighting the same issues he had before he pitted the first time. Low loose in, tight in the center, and loose off. Paul Wolfe came across the radio just recently and told him to keep taking care of those brakes. It's 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel for Brad, Dave.
Kyle Busch told his crew, it's loose everywhere. When I'm entering the corner, I'm almost wrecking the car. He'll get a pretty significant adjustment here for Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel. One last thing they told him to do before you hit pit road, make sure to check those brakes so when you do get to the box, they work.
And once again, Joe Gibbs Racing teams have been near perfect with pit stops, as we've seen there. Another under 12-second pit stop for Kyle Busch as he'll make his way back out onto the track. Kyle Larson still leading at Homestead-Miami. You're watching the Ford Ecoboost 400 from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Still out front is Kyle Larson. This spotter coverage brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. And a lot of the spotters keeping their eye right now on the 18 because of things that they're hearing from this last pit stop, Dave.
About 2 laps after he took back to the track, Kyle said he had a vibration, and when he was trying to run the bottom, at least on one end of the track, he said that the front tires aren't working well either. So keeping a close eye on the 18. That's where he likes to run at the start of a run, right after a pit stop, but not with a bad vibration, guys.
We've been talking about which one of these championship fours are going to go win the championship. Well, first they have to find a way to run through the race without giving it away, and a loose wheel at this timing in the race could be just huge, because the rest of these cars aren't going to pit until the end of stage 1 unless we see a yellow. So the 18 of Kyle Busch would absolutely lose a lap if he had to pit because of a loose wheel.
78 of Martin Truex Jr. right now running in the 3rd spot. He is the 2nd of the championship 4 behind Brad Keselowski.
And Kurt Busch right behind him. Good run so far today. He still has not made his plans for next year known. He and this team that he drives for, they've not come to agreement on if he's going to stay at that team or not. They both said that they want to stay together, but they haven't found a way to make it happen. So last race of the year, hard to imagine that they haven't figured that out.
And right behind them, the 4 of Kevin Harvick. He's running 5th. And the 22 of Joey Logano. Joey Logano had heartbreak when he was a part of the championship 4. They had a bad pit stop the last time they came to pit road, and that took a championship out of the hands of young Joey Logano at the time. And now he's fighting this season to get back on track and wants to end the season on a high note. How much are you looking at what Kyle Busch is doing now as he runs 9th, and he came to pit road on lap 39, which was 9 laps ago? How much are you looking at this saying, well, if he had a vibration, why would you stay out this long?
Well, he's going to stay out until he feels it's going to be a failure. If there's any way he can drive this race car with the vibration, drivers unfortunately have had to learn over the course of the last few seasons how to manage loose wheels. We've seen a lot of them, but Jeff, it builds over time, right? It finally gets to a point where you have no option, but apparently it's not to that point yet.
Well, it's definitely not to that point. And the lap before this one, he was the fastest on the racetrack, and this lap he was the 3rd fastest on the racetrack. So a vibration severe enough to make it so you're going to have to pit, you can't run that kind of speed. So I don't think that the problem is big right now.
Marty.
Rick, remember we told you during the pit stops that Martin Truex Jr. said the brakes were, quote, laggy on the 78. Cole Pearn, obviously, once they got back out on the track, wanted to address that. Here's a radio conversation.
Yeah, maybe just some rear bias just to help take some pressure up in front if they're getting hot. I don't think they're getting hot. Something's going on weird. It's fine now.
So the brakes were weird, but they're fine now. But I'm assuming, Steve, you're probably a little concerned if you're Cole Pearn that he mentioned it this early in the race. There might be a brake issue on the 78.
Well, yeah, I would have concern, Marty. Jeff, you've pointed out how this racetrack doesn't stack up to the other 1.5 miles, and that's one more thing that makes this track different. While it looks like there's all this banking and all this grip, the asphalt is old, it's worn out, and these guys are using brake. Even at a big racetrack like this, they're using some brake pressure to slow the car in. Right here, as the 78 turns to the bottom, he has to use some brake to slow the car down.
Saw Kyle Busch able to get by the 11 of Denny Hamlin, so Kyle Busch moves up to the 8th spot.
Yeah, Kyle Busch has a very fast race car. Kevin Harvick also. Kevin has reined in Truex Jr. and Kurt Busch. See Kyle running that high line, not against the wall. You know, that's a safe high line right there. That's not as aggressive he's going to get when he needs to. We saw it last night in the Xfinity race. William Byron ended up winning that championship, and when he got behind, he put that right side of the car right against the wall, inches away from it, and when he did that, he started running Elliott Sadler back down. I think they're going to use that when they have to.
Well, we mentioned the disappointment for Kyle Larson, the race leader. Well, how about the 11 of Denny Hamlin in the 9th position here? Really looked like during that Phoenix race that he was going to be the car that transferred through, but getting that accident with the 24 of Chase Elliott, that ruined his opportunity. But I mean, up until this point, it was almost a given. We all thought Denny Hamlin had the transfer position.
He was fighting for points with Brad Keselowski and was in a comfortable position. Chase Elliott was in a must-win situation. The two make contact. The 11 got into the wall. Later, tire goes down on the 11. He gets into the wall, and his day's done. And his hopes for a championship finished as well at Phoenix. And the 78 now has a mirror full of the 4 of Kevin Harvick.
And Kevin Harvick came out of the pits about 2 seconds behind the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. He has run him down, and he's done it by running on the very bottom of the racetrack. He just got by Kurt Busch and has driven off from him.
Well, Jeff, when we watched practice trying to compare lap times, that's one thing I noticed about the 4 of Kevin Harvick. He didn't use the top of the racetrack in practice as much as the 78. I didn't know if that was a strategy to just try to protect his race car, or if that's where he was trying to get his car to drive well. But, Rick, it seems like right now the 4 is driving very well at the bottom.
For the 3rd spot and to move up into 2nd in the championship 4, Kevin Harvick trying to take that position away from Martin Truex Jr.
And this is where it's difficult to try to make that pass. Is on corner exit, that top lane, there's just grip. You do not have to turn the steering wheel as much. You're not asking as much of the car when you're running the top. So the entrance is where the speed is. Roll in the middle is pretty equal. If you can break even on corner exit, you have made a gain. See Kevin Harvick, he's going to come off the corner side by side with Martin Truex.
Remember back just a couple races on a 1.5 miles, the last 1.5 miles that was raced on Texas Motor Speedway. Kevin Harvick did something that we hadn't seen almost all season long, and that was someone passing Martin Truex Jr. on a 1.5 mile track for the win. But Martin Truex Jr. continuing to hold off Kevin Harvick.
Well, and as these two are racing, we look up in front of them, and there's 3 or 4 lap cars. So it's going to become even more difficult to try to decide what lane you want to run in the corner.
Eric Almirola is the final car right now on the lead lap, running in the 19th position, as Harvick has the advantage now going into 1. Can he keep that spot? He has lapped cars in front of him.
He slid right up in front of the 78 and took that spot, Jeff. That looked like a closing laps type move, not something this early in the race.
It worked out for Harvick. He makes the pass, moves up to 3rd. Now he chases the 2 of Brad Keselowski. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Ford. We go further so you can. Bank of America. Life better connected. And by Lilly Diabetes, the official diabetes health partner of NASCAR. Gear up with the official Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Championship t-shirts, hats, die-cast, and more at the NASCAR shop. Visit NASCAR.com/shop for all your championship gear. Who will win the championship? Keselowski right now has the advantage. Harvick is second in that group. Martin Truex Jr. is third, but he has had his hands full as of recently.
Well, we talked about Kevin Harvick running the bottom, so Martin Truex Jr. said, you know what, I'm going to try it. Well, that did not work out very well. Tried to drive in behind the 4 car on the bottom of the racetrack and just about spun this thing out. That is very low rear grip.
That was at about 135 miles an hour right there in the corner like that. Marty?
Can you say free, back to the gas? That's what Martin Truex Jr. is saying behind the wheel of the race car right now. And you see them fairly committed to running the top of the racetrack. That's one of the reasons, though, Martin has moved down recently, because his car is too free. And Martin told me a few weeks ago, listen, we haven't been very good at Miami the last couple of years. The reason? We couldn't run the top very well. So that is the sole reason they chose to come here and test. A couple of years ago when they were in the championship 4, they declined the test here at Miami. But this year they accepted, because they felt like we have to be better on the top if we want to win at Miami and win a title, Kelly.
I asked Kevin Harvick about passing the 78 2 weeks ago to get the win in Texas, and he told me that was very significant. He said, I feel like we've had the best car in mile-and-a-half tracks the last few races. We just haven't been able to capitalize it. But in Texas, he said, we were flawless from top to bottom, and more importantly, we passed the fastest guy in town to win that race. And as we go to Miami, we know that, and so do they.
And there's the 48 coming off of pit road now. And once again, they were on pit road early. Dave?
Jimmy smelled smoke. He asked if they saw any damage from the spotter's stand. The right front seemed to be a problem there. And then he got into the wall again. This was lap 60. So he got into the wall earlier, got into the wall again. It's time to pit and put 4 more tires on the 7-time champ's car.
Definitely has not been the season that Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team have been used to after winning the championship a year ago. And now struggling to even make it into the playoffs. They had 3 wins early in the season to get them in, but just not able to continue through the rounds.
Well, I'm going to have to give the biggest improvement award so far in this race, even after only 1 wave of green flag pit stops, to the 18 of Kyle Busch. He's up to the 5th position, but lap time wise, considerably faster than the other competitors in the championship 4, even running faster lap times than our leader Kyle Larson at the moment.
We've seen this before in the championship race. When the 4 championship contenders are running nose to tail, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch running 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th now on the track.
You want to know what motivation is for Kyle Busch? When he looks out of his windshield, he can see them all. The cars in front of him, Truex, Harvick, Keselowski, he can see every one of the guys he's competing against for the championship. He's got the fastest car on the racetrack. He would love to get in front of them before the end of this stage in 12 laps.
Kevin Harvick talked about not running right against the wall. Well, the 18, you saw in 1 and 2, he wasn't up against the wall, but here in 3 and 4, now this lap he's going to run the middle of the racetrack, but the previous laps he's been right up against the wall. Dave?
And Steve, he hasn't said anything more about that vibration he talked about at the beginning of the run. He has given lap times by his crew, knowing that the car is good, knowing that he's making headway, and the vibration must have either stayed the same or went away. Jeff, how often does that happen?
Well, it doesn't happen often. They normally don't fix themselves, but if it does, you have to consider yourself lucky. I don't know how you can get a vibration. Maybe some rubber get piled up in the wheel or something like that, but don't worry. Don't try to figure it out. Just enjoy it.
If it isn't broke, don't fix it, I guess. So right now, the 18 of Kyle Busch chasing after Truex Jr., Harvick, and Keselowski for the title. Kyle Larson leads the Ford EcoBoost 400 from Homestead-Miami Speedway. 6 laps to go in stage 1, and the championship 4 tucked in right behind Kyle Larson. Brad Keselowski running second. Kevin Harvick is third. You see Kyle Busch has moved to fourth. Martin Truex Jr. back to fifth. How did that pass happen? Take a look.
Made it look pretty simple. Then you just go to the bottom of the racetrack, has a little more rear grip than the 78, able to get to the accelerator, put the power down to those rear tires, easily cleared him off the corner.
You heard Kevin Harvick mention it. We've heard a lot of drivers talk about it. The analysts have brought it up that running right up against the wall was going to be the fastest way around this track. At what point in time will that happen?
When you have no other option, when damaging your race car is worth the risk. And right now, with 192 laps to go, there's a little bit of a chess game between these championship 4, but you can't win the championship here. You have to keep your car in one piece for those later laps, Parker.
And Steve, that is not a risk the 2 is wanting to take right now. As the 42 of Kyle Larson is driven away from him for the lead, that is not what this team is paying attention to. Take a listen.
Consistent both ends. Left side's on or above the seam.
All 3 of them.
I was only looking at 4 in the A78. Stand by.
And there you hear 2 of their championship 4 contenders there that they're watching. They are not even worried about what the leader Kyle Larson is doing. They're simply trying to beat those 3 other cars.
And here comes the 18, trying to take down another one of his title contenders.
Yeah, the 18's been flying. We talked about it a little bit ago, and he is just mowing them down. He's about 0.2 a lap faster than everybody. He has gotten really fast. Steve, you mentioned it, the most improved so far today. And I'm going to tell you something that we have not seen very often this year. How many times do you think the 2, the 18, the 4 have driven away from the 78 on a 1.5-mile racetrack? I would say that hasn't been many times. So right now, I think Truex and his team, they're on their heels a little bit. They're going to have to make some really good changes to their race car.
Yeah, Brad. Well, I'm sorry, Rick. I was going to say they have to make good changes, but remember, as you see the lights starting to come on, I mean, the sun is still high in the sky, but it will set. So as we close in at the end of stage 1, somewhere past the end of stage 2, this racetrack will be in the darkness, and it will go through another big shift.
Brad Keselowski has about a 2-second advantage over now Kyle Busch, who's been able to get by the 4 of Kevin Harvick. So Kyle Busch up to 3rd, Keselowski running 2nd. Larson still out front with a 9.5-second lead as they come to the final lap of stage 1. Marty.
And you guys talk about the woes for the 78, the handling right now. Cole Pearn just came on the radio and said, yep, I went the wrong direction last time. My bad. Too tight in the center and snappy loose off for Martin Truex Jr. You see another example of it right there.
Martin Truex Jr. trying to hang on. He knows that a caution is coming up because the end of stage 1 is very close. Kyle Larson right up against the wall. Larson trying to finish on a high note, as the last 5 races have been terrible for the 42 team. But he gets the checkered flag with a 9-second advantage over 2nd place. Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex Jr., the championship 4 contenders, all finishing right behind Larson. And then it goes back to Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Clint Bowyer, all rounding out the top 10 in stage 1. So Larson wins stage 1. Keselowski wins of the championship 4. At the end of stage one, Dale Earnhardt Jr. scored 20th a lap down. So many people have honored and given tributes to the 88 team. Well, Ford had several of their drivers, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kurt Busch, Trevor Bayne, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney. They shared in the fun of doing some artwork on the backstretch of Homestead-Miami Speedway in honor of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s. His number 88, courtesy of their donut. That was a pretty classy move from Ford for the longtime Chevy driver. Having fun and saying thank you. And now, here they come to pit road. Parker.
Guys, Brad Keselowski's going to pit out of second place, but the leader of the championship four, he came across the radio there as the caution came out and said he's been driving very smoothly, taking care of those rear tires, that the car is also driving very similar to how it did in first practice. Just a little loose in, tightness center loose off. It's going to be Ford Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, Kelly.
Kevin Harvick says the balance on the 4 car stays pretty good. He just really needs more rear grip. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment, 4 tires, Dave.
Sometimes the challenge is getting your car better. Sometimes it's keeping it there. That's what the 18 is trying to do, Marty.
Chris Taylor is the front tire changer for Martin Truex Jr. in his final night as a pit crew member. He got him off quickly there. Cole Pern, a slew of changes for that 78 car, trying to get it tighter off the corner, Rick.
Everyone held serve. The race off pit road brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2 video game. Hamlin made up a couple spots. Monster Energy Cup Series racing on NBC, continuing from Homestead-Miami Speedway. And now we go to the fastest member of our crew, Olympian Otto Bolden.
Well, Rick, the energy here, they know they're on television, but the pre-race festivities had everybody really, really excited. Of course, the lap of honor by Dale Jr. Now they've settled in for what has been so far a fairly uneventful race so far, but they know there's a lot of racing yet to go for this championship.
And Otto mentioned eventful. Well, the 18 and the 2 has been eventful throughout pretty much their entire career.
Why do you think that the dislike between you two has gone on for so long?
If you ask Brad, he can fix the world's problems.
Well, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it.
He decided that he'd just run in the back of me and put me in the fence. So, you know, I went down to the next corner and dumped him.
Kyle Busch is a
Brad Keselowski. Who?
Brad closing to you here. Inside. Gotcha.
Sometimes you just don't like a guy. Fact of the matter.
All over
I'm way behind in payback. He's way ahead. So if anybody's going to be getting it, it's going to be him.
Y'all better keep me away from that after this race.
And a couple of those were from this year already. So when we heard Kyle Busch say sometimes you just don't like a guy, and the guy was actually sitting literally 4 feet away from him, that's the way they feel about each other. Coming into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air to start stage 2. How aggressive will the 18 of Kyle Busch be? Right on the back bumper of Brad Keselowski. Great restart for Brad Keselowski, trying to steal the lead away from the 42 of Kyle Larson.
That was a power move by the 42 of Kyle Larson. He just drove right around the outside of Brad Keselowski.
Kevin Harvick has made the move. He's back in front of the 18. Keselowski, Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Truex Jr. once again have settled in behind Larson. In the top 5, Kurt Busch behind them.
So now you got to restart. You know, essentially a third of the way through this race, you got this restart. Now you're getting some information. Now the driver's got to be telling the crew chief, what does it do? Racing against these cars, where does my car need to be better? Where is it really good? We've seen so many of these races come down to a late race restart. You can learn what you need right now, Dave.
Big thanks, Jeff, to our team in the radio room for compiling a little chatter that helps update the situation on the 18's vibration.
That's vibration change or go away? No, it was kind of there the whole time. Just got used to it, I guess. The wheels and everything look fine, so that just might be what we have for set-to-set variation on vibration.
And they looked them over good. I mean, they looked those wheels over to see if there was any variation in the lug holes. They all looked fine, and so they just have to be aware that that might have just been an anomaly.
And I like how Adam Stevens kind of let him know that, just to reassure him that if he feels it again, try not to panic. It's good information to know, but this might just be something we're going to have to deal with most of the day.
The problem with that is, what if it is a loose lug nut? Now you don't know. Now if it's, you just assume, hey, we got these variations, you know, it could be that, and then you don't find that out until it's too late.
Of the championship 4, it's Brad Keselowski still out in front. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. running in a position that's very unfamiliar to this team. They have been dominant on 1.5-mile tracks to the point where he was challenging Bobby Labonte for the best ever average finish on a 1.5-mile track this season. Larson and Keselowski separated by just 0.6 of a second. But Keselowski and Harvick fighting for that top spot of the championship 4. Harvick using the lower line around this racetrack.
Brad's not going to make it easy on him, I can tell you that. This track position matters to them. I know when they pitted early in the race, and then the cycle happened on the green flag, Steve, and they pitted at the same time that these guys pitted on older tires. That told me right then they were not willing to get up any track position.
Yeah, well, we've mentioned this. Paul Wolfe was going to have to be aggressive, give his driver a chance against these other 4 competitors. He did that through the entire first stage. The end of that stage, though, equalized everybody with their strategy and their track position, and now we're starting to see that the 2 perhaps is not quite as fast as some of his championship 4 competitors.
Passed now by Kevin Harvick. So Harvick now leading the championship 4. Keselowski will try to hold off Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr.
Kyle Busch, we talked about him being the most improved from the green flag stop in the stage, or in the middle of stage 1. I think that improvement has continued a little bit into this run as the tires age. His car seems to not get quite as slow as the other cars, meaning that his car just drives better on those older tires than his competitors.
Hey, Steve, can I revisit that question we talked about as he pitted? Is it tough to keep a car good once you've got it, or is it tougher to get it to a spot where it's good?
Well, I think the toughest thing, Dave, is we see the 2 slide up the racetrack and the 18 make a move underneath them, is if you think you are the best of the 4, to continue to make adjustments is difficult because you don't want to take a good car and make it bad, but you have to force yourself, Rick. You know this track is going to change. Plus, you still have the measuring stick of Kyle Larson that is dominating this race. So I think until you're as fast as he is, there's a lot of room for improvement.
Mentioned dominating the race. Kyle Larson still out front. He's led 81 of the 94 laps that have been run already.
Yeah, but Kevin Harvick's got a different thought about Larson dominating this race. You can see in front of the screen, Kevin has run Kyle Larson down. He's less than a half a second away from him now.
And Harvick has stuck to his guns as far as running the bottom of the racetrack until he sees the 42 of Kyle Larson go down to the bottom of the racetrack. So Kevin Harvick decides that a higher line is a better way to go.
Yeah, if you just follow him to the bottom of the racetrack, all the air comes off your car. So aerodynamically, your car does not make the grip. So Kevin has changed his line accordingly.
Larson right up against the wall through 3 and 4. Harvick about 2/3 of the way up the racetrack through 3 and 4. It's happened before. The last 3 years, the championship contender has gone on to win the race to win the title. It's taken a win of the race to win the championship. And now Kevin Harvick trying to get out front of the field here at Homestead-Miami.
This is a perfect example of what Kevin Harvick talked about. He's not willing to go up right next to the wall yet. He doesn't feel he'll need to be there when the sun goes down. So 2 differencing of opinions right here. You have the 42 right against the wall in 3 and 4 where Kevin Harvick runs a little bit lower. This end of the racetrack, Jeff, it seems like against the wall isn't quite as advantageous. They're a little bit lower down the racetrack.
Well, the track's cooled off on this end of the racetrack. It's shaded now.
The different lines working for each driver at different ends of the racetrack. Larson taking advantage of right up against the wall in 3 and 4. And then Kevin Harvick taking advantage of right at the white line through 1 and 2. Straight shots from above the 1.5 mile. Homestead-Miami Speedway, provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. Well, tomorrow, will the hunt for a bombing mastermind cost the team one of their own? Don't miss the thrilling fall finale of The Brave. That's tomorrow, 10/9 Central on NBC. Sun still a factor as they go down the front stretch. Kyle Larson has a 1.1 second lead over Kevin Harvick, who has marched to the top position of the championship 4. Kyle Busch is behind Harvick, and then it's Keselowski and Martin Truex Jr. But Keselowski, who had been out in front of the championship 4, has continued to fall place after place, and now Martin Truex Jr. trying to find a way around the two. Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, Matt Kenseth, Chase Elliott, and Boyer are the top 10 as we see the 78 make the pass on Keselowski. Parker.
And guys, the reason he's falling back, he's as loose as he can possibly stand going into the corner. He's as loose as he can possibly stand off the corner right now inside that 2 car. Remember, he's fought that throughout this race and been a little tight in the center, but then started to get tight at the end of the last run. So Paul Wolfe made a bigger adjustment. Maybe it was just a little bit too much, Marty, for that 2 car.
Parker, it's amazing to me. These championship 4 have run 2nd through 5th for at least 60 laps in a row. So impressive. Even though Martin Truex Jr. struggling with the handling of the race car. Listen on the radio.
Not sure what's going on. I just ain't got the grip. Tight center, loose exit. 10-4. You're not always kind of searching right now without trying to find something without killing the tire. But it's tough.
It is tough trying to save those rear tires here at Miami, and he was reminded in the last run, you have to save those rear tires. But we've seen the 78 team scrap out wins before. Remember Charlotte? They didn't have the best car there. They were able to get to victory lane, but Steve, you know Cole Pern's going to have to come up with some magic as it looks right now to get that 78 in front of the other championship contenders.
Well, we've seen them at some tracks recover from either pit mistakes, speeding, loose wheels. Now it doesn't seem like a mistake they're going to have to recover from. Now it's about good adjustments to get this 78 a little bit more competitive.
So Harvick, Kyle Busch, Truex Jr., and Keselowski. That's the way the championship 4 are running. Let's get an update on some of the younger drivers. We start with Parker.
The 42 of Kyle Larson has led the most laps in this race, doing exactly what you see him doing there. Running that high lane right up against the wall. But as that 4 started to catch him early in this run, his team was letting him know that the 4 where it was running, and he kind of moved his lane down, trying to block a little bit. But once he got clear of the 4 and started to drive away, he went right back to the wall. Also behind him, running 8th position, is the 24 of Chase Elliott, which I'm very surprised by, because speaking to his crew chief, Alan Gustin, before this race, he was not very happy with that car. Felt like they just did not have the speed that they'd had throughout the playoffs. And right now, he told the team that he could run the top, but he's going to save it for later, Rick.
Thanks, Parker. There's Chase Elliott. You mentioned young drivers. Chase Elliott, just 21 years old.
And we've seen Chase Elliott come so close to winning races. He has 7 runner-up finishes and just has not quite found a way to get it done, but so much talent. We saw he and Denny Hamlin have that battle. When all was said and done, neither one transferred here with a chance to win the championship. But, you know, lessons learned, I believe. I think for young drivers being put in that situation, I think they come out of it stronger, come out of it smarter, and that's a down payment on future success.
For more of the future stars of NASCAR, we go to Marty.
And one of those would be the Xfinity Series champion from last year, Daniel Suarez. He won that championship at this racetrack, Rick, and he's been so impressive here in the second half of the season. 8 of his top 10s have come in the second half of the season. This young man from Mexico dealing with a race car that's just a little bit too free on exit. You can see that happening right in front of your eyes right there with Daniel Suarez hanging on to that lead lap right now, Kelly.
Well, it's been a career season for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 2 wins on the year. He was eliminated from the playoffs after the round of 12, but still has a lot to hang their hats on. His crew chief, Brian Pratty, told me they feel really confident about their short track program and super speedway program, so their focus in the offseason is going to be getting better at these 1.5 mile, these intermediate tracks. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. preferring to run the bottom of the track here at Homestead-Miami.
Thanks, Kelly. And the 18 of Kyle Busch has closed the gap now between himself and Kevin Harvick. running a little higher line. We're still seeing Harvick really hug that white line. What a move there by the 18 of Kyle Busch.
And we've seen this so far today. It looks like the 18 of Kyle Busch has a better car on the long run. Kevin Harvick, he jumps out and takes off quickly. I don't know if that's going to change when Kevin decides, hey, I might need to run against the wall. If that will help his car on a longer run, we'll have to see, Kelly.
Well, and crew chief on that 4-car, Rodney Childers, actually sizing up the competition. Here's what he told his driver, Kevin Harvick, during that stage 1 break.
First half of that run, you were better than all 3 of them. And the last half, 18 was the best. You were still better than the 2. 78 was pretty far off there. He was way too tight.
Looks like that's playing here again. Kevin Harvick just now saying that he's too tight getting into 1 and he doesn't have enough rear grip.
How about that, though, Rick? No one's talking about Kyle Larson, the race leader. This race between these championship 4 is purely for a championship. They would love to run the race, and I think they probably think they need to win the race. But right now, the first goal is to be the best of these 4 cars.
And will the 18 clear the 4 to be the best of the 4? Not going to quite get in front of that 4 of Harvick. He dives back to the bottom of the racetrack through 3 and 4. Harvick running a little bit higher line, and he'll slide. That's Kyle Busch sliding just in front of the 4, and now it's Kyle Busch who leads the championship for Kyle Larson, continuing to lead the Ford EcoBoost 400. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official soft drink of NASCAR, and by Ford, going further so you can. Closing in on green flag pit stops from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Let's go to pit road and Rutledge Wood.
So guys, I'm actually here on the pit road cabana. This is Toyota Racing's, and I've got this great view of pit road. And Steve, what I'm wondering is, how do the teams train for this kind of pressure that those pit crew teams are under for those championship four? Because it's bigger than every other weekend of the year.
You're absolutely right, Rutledge. That is the magical formula these teams are trying to come up with. They can train them physically, make them stronger and faster, and they can go through repetition of being more efficient in a pit stop. But there's nothing like the moment. The moment to try to win a race or the moment to try to win a championship. And in the end, I think that's how the superstars on pit road set themselves apart, is not only can they do fast pit stops, Rick, but they can do fast pit stops when the biggest moment is on the line. Really the same for race car drivers. There's a lot of race car drivers that can drive fast laps, Rick, but fast laps versus trying to win a race, much different.
And green flag pit stops are starting now. Saw Joey Logano make his way onto pit road. A couple more cars have taken the hard left turn and gone onto pit road. One of those being the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's making his way down. Of the championship four, it looks like Brad Keselowski will be the first to dive on pit road. Parker.
And Rick, I'm not surprised to see him be the first of the championship four on pit road, trying to use a bit of short pitting to maybe gain on his championship contenders here. Very loose on the entry of the corner, very loose off the corner for this two car. His crew chief Paul Wolf asked if this is worse than it's been before, and he said, yes, sir. It's gonna be 4 Goodyear tires and adjustment in the left rear and Sunoco fuel for Brad Keselowski, guys.
And it looked like a pretty big adjustment with the wrench there in the left rear. Kyle Larson, race leader on pit road. Parker.
Hey guys, this can be 4 Goodyear tires and adjustment in the right rear for Kyle Larson. You see a little bit of fire there under the brakes, maybe some rubber down there on the right front. He's also a little too loose on exit, Kelly.
Well, Kevin Harvick's biggest issue is a lack of rear grip, but he also said the 4 car started to get too tight. It's 4 Goodyear tires and air pressure adjustment, Sunoco fuel.
And almost missing pit road was Kyle Busch.
See right here, the tires lock up, taking a left. I'm really looking for that orange box. Man, he snuck underneath it. It was hard to tell from here, Dave.
Never any doubt, Steve. What a move by Kyle Busch. That was close. 4 Goodyear tires. He'll need all 4 because they'll be flat spotted. A full fill of Sunoco fuel. Really no complaints about the balance of this race car over that run, Marty.
Cole Pern actually wanted Martin Truex Jr. on pit road 2 laps ago. He called him pit road. Martin said, too late, I can't get there. And then they thought someone hit the wall, so they told him to stay out 1 extra lap. A long time on the left rear for the 78. We'll see if that costs him some track position, air pressure, and wedge. Still trying to tighten that car up. Corner exit, Rick.
And they have to come off of pit road on the access road before they blend out onto the racetrack. And you see the 4 of Kevin Harvick out in front of the 18 as they're cycling through the pit stops.
A combination of the 4 car pitting a lap earlier than the 18, having trouble getting on to pit road. Those two things combined to getting Kevin Harvick back out in front of him.
Yeah, and you just heard Marty talk about that slow stop on the 78. He's going to lose a bunch of time to the other 3. And here's a replay of that 18 trying to get to pit road, Jeff.
Yeah, it all started in the middle of 3 and 4. There's just a lot of people trying to pit at the same time. You see the 21 on the very bottom of the racetrack, and Kyle just could not get down as quick as he wanted to. And a nice job of getting on pit road. I thought he was going to have to completely just dive away from pit road and make another lap, and had he done that, it would have been a huge time penalty. Great job by Kyle Busch, making the best of a bad situation.
They have such good pit stops as far as the pit crew once they get into the box, but the driver's always trying to push it right to the edge, trying to get as much as they can before they have to be at pit road speed.
And this racetrack, this may not be the last time we see a problem getting on pit road, because there is such a difference between the banking on the apron of the racetrack and the racetrack itself. And when you carry too much speed, it's just so difficult to get the car slowed down. But again, Kyle got himself in a bad situation, but did a wonderful job of making the most of it.
That time, Jeff, as you know, we saw it last night in the Xfinity Series race. There was one stop where Elliott Sadler actually spent more time in his pit box than did William Byron, but was better getting off of pit road and on pit road and beat him off of pit road. So it really matters what the driver does. I don't think Kyle wants to do it that way every time, though.
I would imagine not.
Yeah, that was too close a call for the 18 team and Kyle Busch. Maybe dodging a bullet there. Kyle Larson in the 42, now mired behind the 48. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. Spotters awful busy today, as this the last race of the season, and the 18 of Kyle Busch now in front of the 4, Kevin Harvick. So Kyle Busch has once again taken the upper hand in the championship 4. Harvick running 3rd. Keselowski is 4th, and Martin Truex Jr. has made it back up to 5th. So once again, the championship 4 running 2nd to 5th, chasing after Kyle Larson.
And we're starting to see the strengths of the different race cars. If it comes down to a short run, so far it looks like the 4 of Kevin Harvick, Jeff, might be the better of the 4 on brand new tires, but it doesn't take long for the 18 of Kyle Busch for his car to become a little bit more dominant.
You see the 18 raining down pretty quickly and jumped on the outside of Kevin Harvick. Kevin didn't put up a huge fight. He just knew the 18 was faster. And I think that it's possible that the 4 car made a change right here that's not as good as the change the 18 made, because it did not take Kyle Busch as long to get by Harvick as it has earlier in the race. So again, the track's continuing to change. These crew chiefs are going to have to be making the right adjustments.
Marty.
Rick, we talked about the slow stop for Martin Truex Jr. They had a lug nut hang up in the rear gun. That is what took a little bit longer on pit road. And also, they stayed out a little bit longer as well. Martin said those final few laps on those old tires were really bad. Take a listen.
Beautiful couple laps. Yeah, 10-4, screwed up there. I just didn't want to get caught.
Colburn apologizing. They had a car that actually hit the wall going into turns 1 and 2. They thought a caution might be coming out. So, Steve, that's a very difficult decision for a crew chief. You know, you think a caution's coming out. You want to leave your driver out there if you can. They thought they had inside knowledge that might be coming, and it didn't happen.
It's a difficult decision, Rick, but I like the choice by Colburn. Remember, in 25 laps, the caution's guaranteed to come out. So Martin Truex Jr., he gave up about 6 seconds to Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick by staying on the racetrack a little bit longer, but no positions on the racetrack. He's still running in the 5th position. So 6 seconds on the track mean nothing at this point in the race. I know that sounds silly, but they are only concerned about lap 267. That's when the championship will be decided.
And right behind Truex Jr. is Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth with that very popular win last week, a win in Phoenix. He has said that he has nothing going on for next year. This may be his last race ever, and it's hard to believe. Matt Kenseth with 39 wins, still able to compete at a high level, just won the race last year, does not have a ride, but that's just simply where he is. And, you know, he's not going to lay down here today. He wants to end his career. I mean, if this is the end, can you imagine winning the last 2 races that you were in, Kelly?
No, and obviously that is priority number 1 for Matt Kenseth, is going for that win right now. His race car is really loose early in the run, gets tight in the late run. When I talked to Jason Ratcliffe, his crew chief, and asked what it's been like working with Matt Kenseth, he said it's been unbelievable. The greatest 5 years I've spent in racing. It's going to be hard to top, Rick.
Yeah, Jason Ratcliffe and Matt Kenseth forming a great bond between crew chief and driver. As we see the 2 of Brad Keselowski in front of the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And with the slower pit stop, Martin Truex Jr. has been playing catch-up now with the other championship 4 contenders, and now he's caught the back of the 2. Will he be able to go by? It looks like he's going to make easy work of Brad Keselowski.
Well, you talked about the bond between driver and crew chief. This 78, that's going to be tested today. They have not had the best of the 4 cars, but this last set of adjustments, Marty, seem to have really helped the speed on this 78 car.
Really brought it to life. Going to see if he can hang on to that spot in front of the 2 car. Looks like he'll be able to. Remember, after that bad pit stop, he came out in 8th. He is now up to the 4th position, and he complained immediately, said the car's way too tight the first lap and a half, but then it came to him, and Colburn told him several times, listen, you're the best car of anyone this entire run. So yes, there's been a little bit of panic on the radio from Martin, complaining about a few things, but Cole very calm. So Steve, that relationship you talk about being tested, but so far very calm in the 78 camp.
So important for the crew chief to remember. He's not in the car. He has the opportunity to climb off the pit box, get a drink of water, take a deep breath, set the tempo on the radio, keep the day calm.
We've talked a lot about Matt Kenseth, possibly his last race. The 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. We know it's his last race, but also the 10 of Danica Patrick, her last full-time race in the Monster Energy Cup Series. Kelly.
and her crew chief, Billy Scott, saying it's just been such an honor to work with her. He said it's been really special. Her impact on the sport has been huge. He said the fan base that she's reached even touches close to home. Billy's daughter, Bailey, is 6 years old. She's about to start racing quarter midgets, and she idolizes Danica, as so many young girls do. Danica will race the Daytona 500 and Indy 500, though, next year. Dave?
And Kelly, so much going on for Dale Earnhardt Jr. this weekend. Friday was not a good day. They had a motor problem, which necessitated a motor change, which made him start in the back of the field. And all day long, he's just been struggling with this race car, just barely running inside the top 20. But he got to talk to the fans pre-race through our broadcast, which was really cool. And afterwards, we know we'll get his thoughts as well. He wants to finish this race to pull down pit road one last time, having raced well and keeping it in one piece.
In every interview I saw this weekend, he said that the most important
Cautions
thing.
come out.
There's a caution on the racetrack.
Yeah, up against the wall. It was Danica Patrick. Just as we were following them, the 47 was right behind her, racing fairly hard, AJ Allmendinger, and there you see the fire on the right side.
Never mind, we're done.
And I'm sure not the way that Danica Patrick wanted her final full-time season to end.
I'd still going to the garage.
The 5 of Casey Kane, a lot of damage to that car.
Huge damage.
We're going to the garage here.
Danica's car.
Right front upper's busted, it looks like.
You heard Danica say stop or continue on to the garage.
You mentioned there was also damage to the 5 of Casey Kane. We didn't get a chance to mention this will be his last time in that 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports. So much like Danica, not how he wanted to end his career at HMS.
And now the smoke's so bad that it looks as though Danica's just going to climb out of that one.
You're all clear to hop out.
Good job by the spotter there to let her know she was clear. No cars coming behind her.
This just the 3rd caution. As we see Danica walking away, she'll have to go to the infield care center, get checked out. With the 3rd caution of the day, 18 laps before the end of stage 2. I mentioned AJ Allmendinger was just behind the 10. He was making the pass on the inside as Danica got hard up into the wall, and Casey Kane nowhere to go.
Yeah, Danica got free getting in the corner and just chasing up the racetrack, ended up getting in the wall, and then Casey just carrying too much speed to get the car slowed down. I know people say, well, just get on the brakes and turn. Well, when you're getting on the brakes, the car's not turning. So many times you see a car drive into a wreck like that. It looks kind of silly, but it's just you can't stop these race cars.
Caution has come out at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We'll be right back. Carson Wentz and the 8-1 Eagles face Dak Prescott. And the Cowboys coverage starts tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern with Football Night in America. And Thanksgiving night, more NFC East action as the Giants face the Redskins in primetime on NBC. Cleanup continuing, and Danica parked the 10 right at the entrance to pit road, so they haven't opened pit road yet. Still rolling around the track as track cleanup continues. And now with 16 laps to go in the stage, crew chief, what decision do you have to make where you're running on the racetrack?
Well, I think everyone on the lead lap will definitely come to pit road. 15 laps is too long to stay out on old tires. Everyone a lap down or 2 laps down, I think will stay out knowing a yellow flag's coming and take the wave around. So I think that strategy call is relatively easy, but it's been kind of anything but easy for the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. It started with a little bit of lap traffic. The 15 car here running the lane that the 78 wants. He shows his displeasure out the window.
He has his hand out the window, letting him know, hey, man, give me some room. And then he came in for a pit stop, watched the left rear tires. He tries to get the wheel off, hangs the lug nut, has to go back. Slow pit stop. Ended up coming out in 8th position.
And definitely want to give our well wishes to team owner Barney Visser. A couple weeks ago, suffering a heart attack, had surgery right away. He's recovering. Wasn't able to make it to the last 2 races of the season. But definitely thinking about Barney as he is watching this race and hoping that his team gets to victory lane.
Rick, it looks like cleanup is complete with the 10, or at least complete enough to get the cars to come to pit road. The green light is open, so decision time, but I think the decision's pretty easy. I expect everyone on the lead lap to be on pit road.
Sure enough, Kyle Larson leading the lead lap cars onto pit road. Parker?
And guys, Brad Keselowski and his crew chief Paul Wolf talked a lot underneath that caution, mostly concerning the fact that he'd slowed down. Paul Wolf asked him, do you have a reason? I said, I don't have an answer. It's going to be 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for that 2 car and an adjustment, Kelly.
Kevin Harvick in that 4 car said that his rear grip is better and he's better in turns 3 and 4, but he's still just too tight in 1 and 2. Can't get that 4 car to turn. You see the adjustment there, Dave, 4 tires as well.
Leading the championship 4, Kyle's car was better at the start, better in the long run. Very few changes, Marty.
Martin Truex Jr. said the car was better, but still too free on exit. I can tell you this, it goes away too quickly. If we're going to keep up with those top guys, we must make adjustments now. Truex goes in 4th and out 4th, Rick.
Race off pit road brought to you by Kroger Click List. Teams also not wanting to get caught for speeding on pit road. Harvick makes up a spot. Still out front of the Ford EcoBoost 400 is Kyle Larson. Harvick, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Kenseth, and Keselowski, the top 6. And after just coming down pit road, we know just how important the pit crews and all of the people that help these teams get to where they are.
Yeah, Rick, it takes so many people, so many talented men and women to put these cars on the racetrack, for these drivers to go out and put this show on, to try to win a trophy, to try to win a championship. And it was a fun project all year long to take a little bit of time and recognize some of the all-stars on these pit crews. So we had over 60 nominees all year long, and this week we announced the final 10, the first ever NASCAR pit crew all-star class, and we got them all together, gave them a helmet, took a picture before the race. It was fun to get all of these different people up on stage and just give them a little bit of recognition. Kelly?
Danica Patrick has now been released from the Infield Care Center after an emotional weekend. Danica, I know this is not how you wanted to end things. I can sense the disappointment. What happened out there?
I hit the wall in 3 and 4 and got a tire rub, blew right rear. I think it was a right rear. Yeah, it's kind of just the story of the year. It's kind of, you know, all the things that pointed in the direction that I ended up going was like I'd start to run better and just things would happen. And, yeah, that was my fault. I mean, it's my fault I hit the wall, but, you know, I asked if it looked okay, and they said it looked all right, and then it blew. So,
silver lining, knowing you're coming back for the Daytona 500?
Yeah. Sure. Let's hope I don't end up in the medical center.
Obviously, a very disappointing end here for Danica Patrick.
Obviously very emotional for Danica. You could see when she made her announcement the other day, she started crying. And it's, you know, when you put your life and soul into this sport and it gets to the point where you made the decision to do something else, it's very, very difficult. You can see she has high expectations. She expects to go and succeed, and she just hasn't found a way to do it. And you can just see and hear and feel the disappointment.
Danica Patrick, the 35-year-old from Roscoe, Illinois, she had a great career in the IndyCar Series, decided to make the move. She won a race in the IndyCar Series, has been very competitive in the Indy 500, made the move to stock car racing, and was with Stewart-Haas Racing, and I think really changed the landscape of the sport, especially for women. They looked up to her, and little girls have idolized Danica Patrick ever since she put on a uniform here in NASCAR. Parker.
Guys, as we come down to the end of stage 2 here, you can see that sun setting off into turn 1, and Brad Keselowski just came across radio telling his spotter, Joey Meyer, that he can barely see going into turn 1, and that team had done a couple things. They gave him a visor, some perforated strips on his actual visor and his helmet, and then he also has a piece of tape on his leg brace that he can add to his visor to help, but he just does not have the ability to see right now, Marty.
Right in front of him, Martin Truex Jr. saying the same exact thing, and also add in all that speedy drive that was just laid down from the 10 accident. Jeff, you've always said restarts are the most difficult thing when it comes to this sunset. Drivers are going to have to do that with a very pitted windshield right now as well.
It'd be very difficult to see in this restart zone, but also you're going to have a 10-lap shootout. We're going to find out who has a great car on a short run.
Field just going through the Geico restart zone. Into the shade and into turn 1. Kyle Larson chosen the outside line. Look who else is making the outside line work. Truex Jr. slides up to second. They go through the speedy dry. That's what you're seeing come off of these cars. Harvick trying to fight back on the inside. Inside of 9 laps to go in stage 2. And here comes Harvick. Harvick has been consistent, running down around the bottom of the racetrack all race long. So it's Truex Jr., Harvick, Keselowski, and Kyle Busch in the championship 4.
And Rick, you mentioned Kyle Busch. He has definitely had the car that has gotten better as laps go by, but on this short run, he's fallen all the way back to the 6th position. He was just passed by his brother, Kurt Busch.
And how about Truex Jr.? He has been struggling, but as we get to the end of this stage, he has emerged as the fastest car right now of the championship contenders, actually driving away from Kevin Harvick.
And can he now close the gap between himself and the 42? Marty.
And Rick, a little mental victory for the 78 here, although he's having trouble seeing. He's mentioned it a couple of times. If he can stay in front of the 4, the 2, and the 18 here, they have sent a shot across the bow because they have struggled, as you mentioned, Jeff, with the handling of the race car. In fact, Martin mentioned, he said, I think we're going to have to work on it because I just can't keep up with those guys, but I haven't run with them all day. I need to run with them for a while to tell you exactly what we need to do to the car. So these laps, important for Truex Jr., Parker.
And Marty, another small victory for the 2-car of Brad Keselowski on that restart, not losing any spots, a very solid restart. And that has been the biggest weakness of this 2-car the last few years. And talking to his crew chief, Paul Wolf, that is one of the things coming into this championship finale that they've worked on the most. Restarts, looking at his teammates' data of Joey Logano, trying to figure out how to make the initial launch better and the next couple laps. And the 2-car is showing that right now, which might pay dividends come the end of this race.
Make a note, right behind Brad Keselowski, the 18 of Kyle Busch. I had mentioned he was just passed by the 41. 5 laps. Write it down, Jeff. 5 laps it took for the 18 car to finally come in. The last set of corners, he easily drove by the 41, now attacking Brad Keselowski. So now we see what type of car Kyle Busch has on a restart.
Kyle Busch is going to go a little bit higher line. Keselowski started down on the white line and drifted up. And here comes the 18.
We're not the only ones taking note of this as well. The other competitors are making notes of what the 18 strengths are and their weakness, and they know now that the first laps after a restart is their weakness, but they're going to have to adjust their cars if they want to keep up on a long run.
I think Truex Jr., I think Marty described it well, the shot across the bow by taking off here and getting second position. I think these 3 guys thought they were going to battle it out amongst themselves. Well, now Martin Truex Jr., who many think was the favorite coming into this race, hey man, don't forget about me. How much of adjustment do you make now? Now it's a different ball game. I think it's going to force some bigger adjustments for these other guys.
Sun will be setting in about 25 minutes. And so the track will then be completely under the lights. The sun won't be beating down in turn 3 and 4 any longer.
My experience, Rick, is as the track cools, it seems like it turns a little better. Like the front tires gain grip quicker than the rear. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but all my history here, Charlotte, Texas, the types of tracks that run into the darkness, they seem to free up. So the crew chiefs, I'm sure, have those same notes. They'll be making adjustments to try to stay ahead of the racetrack.
And Steve, I can tell you Cole Pern's notes agree with your notes, and that's the one thing Cole Pern told me earlier today. He said that's the one thing we have to be on top of, the changing racetrack, because as Rick mentioned a moment ago, it's about to be completely in shade, and then the lights are going to come on. So Steve, how critical, you know, you're going to stop coming up in just a couple minutes at the end of this stage. The right adjustments right here could wind up winning you a championship.
Yeah, Marty, because if you make the wrong adjustment, you lose this entire cycle. As you see the 5 of Casey Kane with the damage underneath the 78, you know, you want to start heading the right direction. If you think it's air pressure or wedge or whatever your magical adjustment's going to be for your car, you want to start getting that in the race car now as we head into the final stage.
Yeah, Kurt Busch is trying to go by the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Keselowski in front of Kurt Busch. So Keselowski now is within sight of Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch. Once again, the championship 4 running 2nd through 5th. Kyle Larson has a 7/10 of a second lead, looking to sweep the stages as he comes out of turn 4. The checkered flag once again as Kyle Larson wins stage 2. This time, it's Martin Truex Jr., who, as you have mentioned, shows a little muscle, and he is the best of the championship 4 at the end of stage 2. Harvick, Kyle Busch, Keselowski, Kurt Busch. Then Kenseth, Logano, Elliott, and Hamlin, the top 10. Right now, only 16 cars on the lead lap. One car will get the free pass. It'll more than likely be A.J. Allmendinger, who was running 17th a lap down, the highest scored lap down car, to put 17 cars on the lead lap. But Steve, you also mentioned that some of these guys may have stayed out knowing that the caution was going to come out, so that they got at least a lap back, but now they'll have to continue to fight their way to be in the free pass position if another caution were to come out.
Yeah, they will, because this is the last guaranteed yellow, right? This is the end of stage 2. So from here with 106 to go, it could possibly go 106 green. We could possibly have 10 yellows. We have no idea how this last 100 laps are going to run.
Let's go back to Otto.
Yeah, guys, you guys have been talking all day about how much the sun has been affecting the vision of these race car drivers. Imagine having to drive through this. Now, this came off of the car of Kyle Larson, but as the sun continues to set, I imagine they're going to be able to take some of these off and have a much better line of sight going around this racetrack.
Yeah, they definitely will, Otto. That is exactly why they put those tear-offs on, is to help the vision as the windshield gets pitted up. All those rocks from the racetrack, they hit it. It pits it up, makes it very difficult to see. You peel those one of the things off, and it is amazing. It's like a brand new windshield. And we just saw, as we rode along with Martin Truex Jr. a bit ago, how bad the sun is, and that's right in the restart zone.
And also, as the sun finally set, some of these drivers have actual clear shields on their helmet with a tinted tear-off on the shield itself. They can reach up and go from what is now a shaded shield to a clear visor.
Well, pits are going to be open right here, pretty much under caution. Everybody's kind of held serve. Nobody's had any bad pit stops, no penalties. As their pressure builds, that's going to become more difficult to do.
Lead lap cars on pit road. Parker.
Guys, I was not the only one who thought that restart by Brad Keselowski was pretty good. He just came across radio as the caution came out and said, that was a great restart. So he was pretty pumped up about that, but very tight as that short run went on. He actually talked about how he's just not good with the rear tires right now, Kelly.
Kevin Harvick did not like the last round of adjustments. He said he was plowing tight, said the car was terrible. So you see they're going back on a wedge adjustment. 4 tires of fuel, Dave.
No front end when I fire off, said Kyle Busch. We noticed that. He'll get a wedge adjustment, tires and fuel, Marty.
Martin Truex Jr. wanted that tear off the windshield, and we talked about a pit crew needing to do something on pit road. Truex's crew just did it. They got him the lead here on pit road. He said, honestly, the handling of the car, not that different, but clean air was huge, Rick.
Huge off of pit road. That race brought to you by NASCAR Heat 2. Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch gaining spots.
Baby, it's about time.
Doing good?
You're watching Monster Energy Cup Series racing on NBC, the final race of the 2017 season. Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods. And sun about to set here on Homestead-Miami Speedway. I want to take a look at the stage results presented by Ford Performance. Kyle Larson sweeping the 2 stages. But this time it was Martin Truex Jr. who had the advantage over the other championship 4 contenders. Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski have been running in the top 5 almost the entire race. The race off of pit road, very interesting, as we saw Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch take advantage of great pit stops, and they were able to get out in front of the 42 of Kyle Larson. We'll see now if Kyle Larson can rebound from that.
Well, now we've talked at the start of the show about we had 2 stages that were going to break up the strategy. The sun was going to set, and as we wear on, closing down to 100 laps to go, this is about a sprint for these guys that are used to running 400 and 500-mile races. 100 laps on a 1.5-mile racetrack. Only 1 more pit stop required if it went green. They can make it on 1 pit stop for fuel. Not a lot of chances to adjust on your car if you haven't made the right adjustments now.
Yeah, and I think the momentum has shifted to Martin Truex Jr. in the last 15 laps. He went from having the 3rd best car of the championship contenders to having the best car, and then his pit crew did a great job of getting him out first. So momentum has shifted. Advantage Truex Jr.
We know that these 2 are very aggressive on restarts. We saw that at Indianapolis. We'll see how it goes here as they come into the sun. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch making up row 1. The championship on the line. Cars fanning out as they get ready to enter 1. Great restart for Martin Truex Jr. He stays out in front. Kyle Busch 2nd, Kevin Harvick 3rd, Kyle Larson 4th, but fighting for that spot with the 22 of Joey Logano. Logano surging ahead for 4th. That puts Kyle Larson, who's led the most laps, over 145 laps, puts him back into the 5th position. And Brad Keselowski has fallen to the 9th spot on the track.
It'll get much more difficult back there. The air is dirty. Do not have as much downforce versus for the first 3 or 4 cars.
Steve, how much do you think the track is going to change when there will be no sun on this track? Will it be drastic, dramatic?
I think it's going to be drastic at 3 and 4. 1 and 2 seems to cool slowly. It gets into the shade, and then eventually the sun goes down. But 3 and 4 is in the sun right to the bitter end. And I think when that sun finally sets, it'll be a major shift for that end of the racetrack.
The final 100 laps. Brad Keselowski fighting to get back up against his competitors that he's racing for a championship with. Parker.
And guys, part of why he's back there was a little bit slow on the right side. During that pit stop, he lost 3 positions. And then, as you know, Jeff, when you're starting to fall back in the pack, those restarts just get tougher and tougher when you lose that track position. So he's trying to get back from that little bit of mistake, but you can't afford that as one of these championship 4s you get later in the race.
Yeah, Parker, it's so much more difficult back here. Look at Chase Elliott make an aggressive move, but it's just so much more difficult. And as you're trying to work your way through the field, you're hurting your tires more as well. You're having to push more. You're making less grip, which means the tires are sliding. It's eating the rubber off of them. So, you know, this is not only just a track position game, but as this run goes longer, I think Keselowski will be even at a more disadvantage.
We're seeing the 24 Chase Elliott close in on the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Look at the move Chase Elliott makes here.
Yeah, the 2 of Brad Keselowski slowed his momentum a little off the exit of 2 racing with Denny Hamlin. Chase Elliott was attacking him into turn 3, couldn't pass him in that move. Now he's worked his way back underneath the 2 of Brad Keselowski. And this is exactly what you don't want to see as a crew chief. You've worked through 2 stages to try to gain track position. And now in 1 cycle of the pit stops, between a little bit slow of a pit stop and now not the best restart, all the way back to the 9th position as the other 3 of the championship 4 are running 1, 2, 3. You need to start looking at what options you have. If this runs green, can I pit at a different time? If the caution comes out, you would imagine everyone would pit.
And this is part of the race also where drivers are going to have to start thinking about trying something different. Think about Kevin Harvick. We've not seen him up by the wall. But now he's falling back to 3rd, a 2.5 back. Is he going to start pushing the issue? With 96 laps to go, are you going to have to start looking to find a way for your race car to go better on a different part of the racetrack? Of course, we've talked about it. The risk versus reward of running up by the wall.
Martin Truex Jr. now in front on a 1.5-mile track. That has been a familiar sight, but just not here in Miami. Martin Truex Jr. looking for his first championship. He's 96 laps away. Battle for the lead and possibly the championship. Kyle Busch, as we've seen through NASCAR nonstop, making the moves on the 78, and now Kyle Busch in front.
Different run, same story. The longer these cars run, the better the 18 gets versus the competition.
Now Martin Truex Jr., the regular season champion, has to figure out a way to stay with the 18 as the laps continue to wind down. Just 89 to go in the season. At least one more stop. That means one more possible change, but he does not want to lose sight of the 18. Kyle Busch out front looking for his second championship. Kyle Larson, who had run so well in the first two stages, after not as good a pit stop as Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., lost the lead, now running fourth. Dave.
So Kyle Busch heard what you guys were talking about. He was asked about his race car and how long it would take for it to come in on these short runs. 5 laps was his response, and we saw that once again he got around the 78. This was recent radio.
Let him burn himself down. We've been good in the long run. That's our strong suit.
Hoping that Truex would use his stuff up. Busch saved his until that car came in and then went by him, Marty.
Dave, on the 78 radio, a lot of talk about what line on the racetrack to take and when to take it. Listen to the conversation between Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn.
Every time I went up there
I've been running a while and struggling. It's real bad. So I think that's the reason, but I'm not ready to commit to it yet. It's too early. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're riding P4 here. We're doing plenty fine. We're still in it.
That was a little bit earlier. What he's saying is too early to run the wall, so there's still a tool in the bag for the 78 to go to. Yes, he's running high, but he's not running the wall. Looks like there might be a caution, Rick.
Yeah, the 66 looks like left side tires down.
Tires on infield.
David Starr is going to bring it to pit road. We stay green. And the 42 working the high line, trying to go by Kevin Harvick. Harvick still stuck to that white line.
Well, there's never an advantage not to be in the championship four. That's every driver's goal. But if there was ever a sliver, it's right here for Kyle Larson. He says it's time. Look at him. He's not leaving any room between himself and the outside wall trying to catch these leaders. Kelly?
And once again, Kevin Harvick saying that that 4 car is just a little bit too tight. Here's what Rodney Childers told him.
I think you're doing the right thing there. Most of them have been too tight. Have been a lot better up top. I need to be on the bottom, but I can't turn to make the bottom.
And then his spotter, Tim Fedewa, came back and said, hey, look, we're still in the game. We'll get this right from the end of the race.
And that's the question, the end of the race. So history would say that this race normally has a short run. The last run in the last 3 races have been less than 7 laps. So when we talk about Kyle Busch being good on the long run, is that how the race will end, or will we see the normal shootout, which has been kind of the standard for these championship races?
And we know how important tires are, so we know if it's within 10 laps or more, every team's going to come to pit road. That puts so much pressure on the pit crew, making sure that they get those cars back out on the track, at least in the position they came on, and maybe gaining some spots from pit road.
And you heard the conversation between Kevin Harvick, Rodney Childers. Rodney said, hey, look, cars that are tight, they've gone to the top, and it's made it better. And Kevin said, I don't want to be on the top. I need to be on the bottom. We got to make the car better where I want to put it, and that's going to be the emphasis. Is he hasn't changed his line yet. He wants them to work on the car to make the car better. Parker.
Guys, I drove for Brad Keselowski in the Truck Series for 2 years. I was his teammate at Team Penske, and one of the biggest lessons he taught me was how to take care of a race car. As he's running 9th right now, take a listen to what he's doing inside that car.
Trying to be smooth and not abuse it. I'll go a little faster if I crack it hard, but not worth the penalty on the long run. So this is kind of not far from what we've got, Paul.
And that's the thing. This might not be far from what they have inside that race car, but he's taking care of it. He's not getting all the way up right next to that wall, trying to make sure that they're in this fight when it comes down the end, and that is what has made him so good. For so many years, he knows how to take care of the tires, and he knows how to take care of that race car to fight for this championship.
Well, staying in position is important. Jimmy Johnson won a championship here last year without a car that was fast enough to just go out and race him. He had a great restart at the end of the race, but he got himself in position by staying in position, and that's what Brad Keselowski's having to do right now.
Keselowski said he had to run a perfect lap if he was going, or perfect race if he was going to win the championship. Kyle Busch right now out front as we go NASCAR nonstop.
that is. You wonder if they got the right front, too.
There's nothing like attending a NASCAR race. This season has been full of some of the most intense side-by-side racing in years. And tickets for the 2018 season, they're on sale now. Visit NASCAR.com/tickets to reserve yours today. It's just 91 days until the start of 2018 and the Daytona 500. Kevin Harvick looks as though he might have a little bit of damage on the right front. Kyle Busch out front, Martin Truex Jr. running second. Larson has moved up to third, but Harvick running in that fourth spot. We heard a little radio communication that said there might be an issue.
Yeah, we tried to look. We didn't see any contact on pit road or anything, so I'm not sure if it was debris, but it's clear to me that on this right front fender where the Sunoco decal should be, there's a big dark spot. Well, that's a hole in the fender in that lower area, and while it doesn't seem huge, that is definitely hurting the downforce, Kelly.
Yeah, and the team said just wrong place, wrong time. It was debris that came off the 66 that we saw sparking with a flat earlier that caused that damage. The team doesn't seem overly concerned. They feel like it's something they can repair on a routine pit stop.
Yeah, Kelly, I think the disadvantage is even if they can repair it, they're losing an opportunity to understand what their car is doing because they don't really know the impact of this change. So they know they're too tight, but how much is this hole causing a problem? So they make the adjustment based on the information they have, but is it going to be enough of an adjustment or will it not be enough?
Well, Kevin Harvick also searching for his second championship. Was able to win when he and Rodney Childers, crew chief, came together for the first time at Stewart-Haas Racing. And now running in the third position as far as the championship four are considered.
And Rick, earlier those first and the second stage were 80 laps long, so all the crew chiefs split them up evenly. They ran roughly 40 laps on a set of tires. Well, this will be lap 30 on this set of tires, but this stage is much longer. So these teams are going to have to go into uncharted territories on this set of tires. I expect them to pit in about probably 18 or 20 laps. That's going to be close to 50 laps on both sets. It's going to be interesting to see. We keep talking about tire management, which driver has done the best job and which car handles the best taking care of the tires. We see the 42 of Kyle Larson still right against the wall, making a move on Martin Truex Jr.
Trying to take second away as Kyle Larson uses that momentum coming off of turn 4 and now up to second. Now he'll try to chase down Kyle Busch. And how much do drivers like Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch even worry about Kyle Larson? Because the bigger picture is the championship that's looming out there. Marty.
Rick, I can answer that question. Cole Pern just said on the radio, run our race. So obviously not too worried about the 42. Same handling issues for the 78. Tight in the center, loose on exit, but you got to wonder with the sun coming down if that's going to help them out. There is one other issue, though. Radio problems. Take a listen.
Whose damn radio is that? I don't know. I'm not sure at all. I can't figure it out. We're trying. On with me. As long as I can quit hearing that damn noise.
So what they did is they switched to channel 1 on the radio, which they never use on the 78 team. But Jeff, as a driver, that can be awfully distracting when there's interference on your radio.
Someone must have a radio keyed up. I mean, the button's pressed, and when you hear that noise, it's like a static noise, and it's annoying. Imagine you're trying to focus, you're trying to hit your marks and be perfect, and you have this strange noise coming from nowhere. And also, that's a time that you cannot communicate when someone else has that button pushed on their radio, so very annoying.
Guys, as we talk about pit strategy and breaking this up even, I have the chance to kind of sneak a peek out the window, and I see some movement in Brad Keselowski's pits, and here he comes. He peels off the banking with 70 laps to go. The first one of the championship 4 hitting pit road. Paul Wolfe, we've said it all week. Be aggressive. Do something different. Well, here's his chance. Do something, Parker, to give the two a chance at a championship.
Right, Steve. He'd fallen outside of the top 10 and come across radios and said that car had gotten way worse. But then just before they pitted, he said that last adjustment is starting to come in. It's going to be 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, and an air pressure adjustment for the 2 car. Let's see if he can gain time on those championship 4.
There's
Great
no
pit stop.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's going to gain time. Now it is a chess match. What are the other 3 going to do? Are they racing Brad Keselowski, or are they racing one another at the front of this field? If they choose not to pit and this cycles the wrong way or the caution comes out at the wrong time, this could be the move for Brad Keselowski.
We've always said that Brad Keselowski and Paul Wolfe gamble, and the 78 has decided he's going to stay on the same Same cycle as the 2 is Brad Keselowski.
And the 4 is coming behind him.
So Kevin Harvick will also follow as Kyle Busch still out front. Marty.
Rick, Paul Wolf absolutely forced these guys' hand to come to pit road, and 78 was considering staying out. Like Steve was saying, about 10, maybe 12 more laps. Truex said the handling of the race car exactly the same as it's been all day long. Tight in the center, too free on exit. They haven't been able to make that better yet. They're going to try here with air pressure, Kelly.
Kevin Harvick initially said that the 4 car was better on that run, but then he got a little bit too tight. Once again, you see it, 4 tires, and they put a patch on that hole in the front, right front of that car.
12.5-second pit stop for the 4 of Kevin Harvick as he'll make his way out onto the access road and back onto the track. Kyle Busch has stayed out.
Hey, Rick, he was just told that we are going to one-stop it. Jeff and Steve, what would change that?
Well, so basically what changed it was Brad Keselowski forced everyone's hand. He said, you know what, I'm not going to wait to my pit window. I'm going to pit, take fresh tires, and try to make a gain on the other 3. Kyle Busch is going to stay on the racetrack. This call by Adam Stevens will be the most difficult call of his career. He needs to run about 7 or 8 more laps to get into his window. But every one of those laps, he's losing 2 to 3 seconds to those cars that have fresh tires.
Yeah, nothing's ever easy. You can see a tear off of a driver's helmet, the shield on the driver's helmet. They pull that off, throw it out the windshield. Well, that ended up on the front of the 18 car. It's very difficult to see. I can't see if it came off or not, but if it got on the grill, that could make that car overheat.
Kyle Busch staying out, still in front of the championship 4 as we go NASCAR nonstop. Gear up with the official Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Championship t-shirts, hats, die-cast, and more at the NASCAR shop. You can visit NASCAR.com/shop for all your championship gear. You saw in NASCAR nonstop, the 18 is out front, and we saw the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. unlap himself. So he came to pit road, got fresh tires. The 18 has stayed out. While the 78 was on pit road, he went a lap down to the 18, but those fresher tires are working to get back on the lead lap.
So basically, Rick, here's the situation. At the start of this final stage, there were around 104 laps to go in this race. So all of these cars could do that on one stop when it comes to Sunoco fuel. But because the Goodyear tires lose speed over a run, the strategy for Paul Wolf, who kind of started this with the 2-car of Brad Keselowski, is we're back in 9th. Let's pit. We're going to pit twice. We're going to basically break this up into thirds. Try to consume this last run a little differently, see if the caution falls at the right time, or if perhaps we just have a fast enough race car that with new tires will overcome. That pulled the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. to pit road. That pulled the 4 of Kevin Harvick to pit road. But Adam Stevens and Kyle Busch in this 18 car have stuck with the one-stop strategy. So if this race goes green, I would expect in 7 to 8 laps, the 18 car of Kyle Busch will come and get their last set of tires, assuming there's not another yellow. The yellow is the thing that could change all of these strategies, Dave.
So, Steve, that he just radioed in the loose as he's been. One thing he also radioed in, they discussed whether or not he had something on the grill. You pointed it out that something had gotten on there. Kyle reported that the temperatures all look good. So from that standpoint, they should be okay sticking to their strategy right now.
The big concern for the 18 of Kyle Busch is he's losing time to all those cars on new tires. As you said, the 78 easily passed him. So when he pits, he's going to be well behind them. Now remember, his tires will be fresh, so he'll run them back down. It's going to be all if the yellow comes out. Right, yes. If and when. And Rick, if you could tell me if and when, then I'm going back to the pit box because I'm going to win a lot of races if you could give me those answers.
Well, it's important, too, that Truex Jr. and Harvick, they've gotten their lap back. I mean, that's important because now if the caution comes out, yes, they've lost some track position, but they can pit with Kyle Busch and stay in the lead lap with fresh tires. We saw that tear off of a helmet. We saw it go up on the front of the 18 car. Well, we've been able to zoom in on it, and you can see that right in the middle toward the bottom, that has gotten stuck to the grill. We just heard Kyle Busch say that he was loose. Well, what does tape do? It puts front downforce on the car. Well, this is the same as having tape. You've increased front downforce. You've taken a little bit of rear downforce. You've taken downforce rather and shifted it to the front. Makes the front tires work better, and that can make you loose. So that could make it complicated for this team on the change that they're getting ready to make.
Yeah, the simple thing is, though, if the temperatures are okay, I'm leaving it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to snug the car up.
Oh, yeah.
Just a few laps until we'll see cars like Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, those two on the same schedule, as well as Kenseth and Hamlin. Those 4 cars now that are running 1 through 4, all on this same schedule, a one-stop strategy for this final stage.
So 26 seconds behind Kyle Busch, but on the same lap as the leader is the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. He has already been on the pit road, but we talk about tires and how important they are. Look at this, 5 miles an hour faster on the last lap. That's over a second a lap faster than Kyle Busch. So, I mean, there's no doubt that the tire decision helped the speed of the 78, but remember, he still has to come to pit road one more time for fuel if it runs green, and so doesn't the 18. So the 18 basically has a 26-second lead. If this runs green, this call by Adam Stevens single-handedly has won Kyle Busch the championship. If the caution comes out, take the gloves off, and they're going to battle.
Remember, those Joe Gibbs Racing cars used that strategy at Darlington earlier this year. The winner that day, Denny Hamlin. That win was later disqualified. But when you're Martin Truex Jr. and you're in this position, you don't really know who you're racing. Take a listen on the radio.
You're racing him? No. I know. I just let you know. The next local position is 11. We're P5 right here.
So Cole Pearn kind of guiding Martin Truex Jr. through who am I actually racing, who am I worried about on the racetrack, because the sequences are so different. By the way, of the Joe Gibbs Racing cars, Denny Hamlin is coming down pit road, as well as Daniel Suarez, so that might mean Kyle Busch might follow soon as well, guys.
And again, Kyle Busch still out front, not only leading the race, but leading the championship for Parker.
Guys, Kyle Larson pits out of second place, doing that same one-stop strategy as Kyle Busch. Just a little tight through the corner right now, and also had gotten to the wall for about the 3rd time this race. As you see a little bit of an adjustment there on the right rear quarter panel and adjustment in the right rear for Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for Kyle Larson. Kelly.
And we see the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers also coming to pit road. That's the 20 of Matt Kenseth, who pits from 3rd. At one point, he called the 20 car floaty. You see they make a chassis adjustment now. He ended that run tight through the middle.
So now it's just Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch and Larson's already been to pit road, but Kyle Busch, the only one still out on the track.
Jeff, remember how sketchy it was for the 18 of Kyle Busch the last time we saw a green flag pit stop, all but missing that commitment box. He cannot afford a mistake like that on this strategy.
That's Keselowski trying to unlap himself. Again, that's not for position, that's trying to unlap himself. But here's Kyle Busch running lower on the track. You would expect him to be coming to pit road right here as he slows down, trying to make that turn onto pit road. He successfully gets onto pit road. He'll relinquish the lead. And now we'll see how the crew will do. Dave.
And Rick, you've got to do everything right here. A couple of things in play. The driver said it was a little bit snug on that run. That means it's hard to turn. He also wanted to try to do something for that short run speed, just in case they get one of those at the end. The debris has fallen off the grill, so no need to worry about that. The tear-off is gone. Tire changers and carriers go to work. Jackman is up. Fuel is in. It's off the jack. That's Kyle's cue to go, and he's out of here.
And you mentioned that debris. It looked like they removed the debris, but then added a piece of tape. So a little more calculated aero adjustment for the 18 of Kyle Busch.
Well, that's the problem with that debris is you don't know when it's going to fall off. That tape's not going to come off, but you see the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. We talked about how big of a lead he's going to have after this sequence. He was 22 seconds behind is where he was, and it's mentioned to see where they come back. The 18 is going to be way behind, but on much fresher tires.
Kyle Busch, can he make the fresher Goodyear tires work to get back up front? Right now, it's Truex Jr. out front, but the fresher tires with the 18 and Kyle Busch. NASCAR nonstop. Martin Truex Jr. out in front of the Ford Ecoboost 400, and now he has the upper hand in the championship 4 as he's looking for his first title. But we know that the 18 of Kyle Busch is going to be coming on those fresh tires. The 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his final start as a full-time driver in the Monster Energy Cup Series. A very emotional day and final few races it has been for the driver who was at the racetrack following, watching his dad put together legendary numbers. And then once his dad passed, he was the heir apparent to all of the legions of fans that the Earnhardt name brought along with it. And he has carried that proudly. 14-year most popular driver in the sport right now. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who said, I just want to run all the laps. I want to make sure that at the end of the day I come down pit road with everyone else. Well, he's running 17th right now. He's one lap down. Dave.
Rick, 10 years ago in May, Dale Jr. announced the unthinkable. He'd leave the family-owned team and drive for Rick Hendrick. But he went from family to really more family, as both Jr. and Mr. H have described their relationship as father-son-like. And if you think of it in the most obvious terms, one lost a father, one lost a son. Life seems to have given them each other a racing decade, which ends today. But more importantly, they have a bond of friendship for life.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., again, still fighting on the racetrack, running 17th.
All right, Rick, with 43 laps to go, I know the pit strategies get jumbled up and a little confusing, but the simple thing is Martin Truex Jr. is the leader of the race. But if you look at the top of your screen, you see Kevin Harvick a little under 4 seconds behind, Kyle Busch under 10 seconds behind. Just a handful of laps ago when he came off pit road, he was 18 seconds behind Martin Truex Jr. These new tires, look at the amount of time he's gained in just 3 laps. The beauty for Kyle Busch, he can make it on fuel. So if we go 42 laps green, he will take over the lead from the championship 4. Now, I don't believe he can win the race because Kyle Larson is in front of him on the same strategy, but that's not Kyle Busch's goal. Kyle Busch's goal is to beat the other of the championship 4.
But if the caution were to come out, Truex Jr. and Harvick would have flipped the field. They would have gotten in front of them by pitting early. They would have flipped the field and gotten some track position. That's the gamble they made. I think that they believe that Kyle Busch had them beat. They believe that they were going to have to do something different. That's why they got on the same sequence that Keselowski was on.
And they were almost 4 seconds behind, right? They were going to run 4 seconds down.
Right. And Jeff, as a driver, you know, you kind of want to know what this plan is. You can't always picture everything that's going on with every driver. So Kyle wanted to know, you got to help me out here. I don't have a clue. And so Adam Stevens took a moment to explain that the other two have to stop and that we're in good shape.
And Dave, I think that's important so he doesn't push it too difficult. We've talked about how treacherous this racetrack is, Jeff. I need you to understand, listen, don't go do something silly like hit the wall. We are in position right here if this goes green.
Under 9 seconds now, the gap between Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. So Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick, they're hoping a caution comes out. A caution comes out, that puts them ahead as far as track position. That makes this strategy work.
Oh, got a spinner in 3 and 4.
And quite possibly could see the caution now. The 41 of Kurt Busch running right along the apron. The 19 had an issue, but now the 41. And the caution will come out. Kurt Busch fighting his way to pit road, but the caution comes out. Playing into the hands of Truex Jr. and Harvick.
Yeah, we looked up and we thought for sure it'd be a yellow. The 41 was backwards with smoke coming off at the middle of turns 3 and 4.
So that's what Truex Jr. wanted. That's what he needed. He got that caution. There he is. He Busch sideways in the corner.
A lot of smoke is way up the racetrack. Dale Earnhardt Jr. went by.
When you see the left rear tire was flat in the quarter panel, relatively destroyed on the 41. All that debris is out there in the middle of 3 and 4. But to your point, this was the strategy for the 78. Was basically all of that work was to gain 3 positions. He's now the leader, where the 18 of Kyle Busch is in 4th. But now we're going to see another wave of pit stops with only 39 laps to go.
Tires so important. They'll all be coming to pit road. The last time by, the scoring monitor had only 11 cars on the lead lap. Austin Dillon running 11. All 4 of the championship contenders running in the top 6. As we hear already, the 2 of Brad Keselowski has been shutting the car off. Pit road still closed. Keselowski saving some fuel, but ultimately he'll be coming to pit road. They'll top it back off with fuel.
And think about the gain with Keselowski. He was 18 seconds behind these guys when this whole sequence started. So now he's in 6th position. So that gamble was definitely worth it for Keselowski. Now, Steve, it is pressure-filled pit stops, not just for the pit crew members, the drivers, pit crew members, everybody. You cannot speed. You cannot miss a dog line. You cannot make a mistake, Marty.
Hey guys, Martin Truex Jr. will come to pit road, but right in front of him you see them cleaning up debris and liquid from Daniel Suarez. They had a right front let go, but it also got the brake lines and everything. So that's brake fluid and water on pit road right in front of Martin Truex Jr.'s pit stall. You see them pushing it back behind the wall, and it drug all that fluid with it. So the 78 team and the 19 team trying to get that cleaned up, hoping it doesn't affect the 78 stop here.
They're doing that while pit road is still closed. Out there cleaning the boxes and cleaning that area that Martin Truex Jr. will try to rocket out of his pit stall. And the race off of pit road could be just as important as the race on the racetrack. So advantage right now to Martin Truex Jr. Leading the race, leading the championship 4. Kevin Harvick behind him. Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. It's Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, Clint Boyer and Austin Dillon, all lead lap cars, and they're all on their way down pit road. Parker.
And Jeff, you said that caution was absolutely huge for the 2-car Brad Keselowski. They were just approaching to have to make their green flag pit stop. He came across radio and said that was the best they've been on the short run, and Paul Wolf confirmed that with his lap times. 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel, Kelly.
Kevin Harvick says the 4-car took off better. He also says it's holding on pretty well. They're going to make a small air pressure adjustment. Tape on the grill, Dave.
At the time of caution, 12 laps on the tires. You bet Kyle Busch will take 4 more, Marty.
Truex said these long runs are really hurting us. Some tape on the grill. He said the exit is just so free, and it gets free too quickly, and they hold serve here on pit road. Huge stop for the 78 team, Rick.
Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, they keep their spots. Kyle Busch gained 1. Larson losing 2. And coming up after the checkered flag, we'll have continued post-race coverage here on NBC until 7 o'clock. Over on NBCSN, after 7 o'clock, it'll be 2 hours more coverage. Looking into this, the championship race, the finale from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Who will it be that wins the championship? Well, we know that restarts can play a huge role in who will be the champion. Looking back to last year, a late restart, championship contenders getting caught up in a late race melee, one of those being Carl Edwards in the 19. The 48 of Jimmy Johnson snuck through, and that made the biggest difference.
It's winning time. I mean, it's championship winning time. 35 to go. You've got the 3 championship contenders in the top 3. Keselowski in 7th. Now's your chance. You've worked a lifetime to get to this position. You're going to do anything it takes to win this championship.
And how about the contenders that aren't part of the championship for the 22 of Joey Logano, 42 of Larson, 11 of Denny Hamlin, all up inside the top 6. We heard Denny Hamlin after qualifying, he didn't want to hear about points. What do you say? All I want to do is win.
34 laps to go. Truex Jr. and Harvick making up row 1. Three wide, the 2 of Brad Keselowski, fighting on the bottom of the racetrack, trying to grab positions early. Joey Logano, he doesn't care about a championship fight. He wants to win this race. Joey Logano moving by the 4, trying to take away 2nd from Kevin Harvick.
Harvick needs to clear Joey Logano as soon as possible. 11's gotten by the 18.
And here comes Harvick back on the bottom of the racetrack where he's run all evening. Slides up the racetrack right in front of Logano. And now back chasing after the 78 of Martin Truex Jr.
And you mentioned that the 18 cleared the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Remember, his car has improved 5 or 6 laps into every run. We'll see if he can do the same thing here with 33 to go.
Lost a spot to Logano. He'll try to chase him back down and grab that position back.
Harvick and Truex exactly the same speed that lap.
Remember, the last time we saw these two cars running 1-2, the 4 of Kevin Harvick at Texas, we were able to run Martin Truex Jr. down and pass him in the closing laps. That's really the first time all year we've seen anybody pass the 78 at 1.5 miles.
Steve, right before the green flag, Martin Truex Jr. was told by Cole Pearn, listen, buddy, this is going to be a decently long run. They have struggled on the long runs all day long. We'll see how that affects the 78, but then he said, listen, I'm going to need all you got early in the run. Get as much distance as you can, but you can see the 4 closing in, Rick.
The Harvick was the first car to change his line. He put his car in the middle of the racetrack. They had been on the bottom. Martin Truex Jr. answered by moving his car to the middle of the racetrack.
That same line took it away from Kevin Harvick that time by.
And when Harvick went to the middle, he made a huge gain on Martin Truex Jr. And Martin smartly said, you know what, I'm not going to let you do that in 3 and 4. Went to the middle, took the air off of Harvick's car, and now he's driving back away.
Truex Jr. again looking for his first championship. 30 laps away with Kevin Harvick hugging that white line again. That has been the line he has run all race long, as the 18 of Kyle Busch can't get by the 22 of Joey Logano. Tried that time, couldn't clear him.
And this can be so frustrating when you're Kyle Busch. You're thinking, hey man, you're not racing for a championship, cut me some slack. But Joey Logano, he's out there running his own race.
Dave.
And Rick, Marty talked about the 78 not being good on the long run. Kyle actually waved off on adjustments that might have been better for him on the short run, because he looked at the laps to go. There were 34 to go when the green came back out. He said, that's too much time. My car will come back. And so that's what he's counting on.
He can't get too far back then, because right now he's 2.5 seconds behind Martin Truex Jr. and trailing the 22 of Joey Logano. That's a big gap to make up if Kyle Busch wants to win another championship. They all continue to chase Martin Truex Jr. as we go NASCAR nonstop. 28 laps to go. Less than 23 laps remain in the Ford EcoBoost 400, and once again, the 3 championship contenders are 1, 2, and 3. Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch is now gotten by Joey Logano into 3rd, closing the gap.
And the last lap by the slowest of the 3 was the leader, Martin Truex Jr. Harvick a little better, Kyle Busch in 3rd a lot better, almost 0.3 of a second the last lap.
And look where Truex Jr. is. He's put his car on the bottom of the racetrack trying to take away the advantage that Kevin Harvick had gained. Kevin was running him down. Martin Truex's answer is to take the air away from Kevin Harvick.
The gap between 1 and 2, 0.4 of a second. Kyle Busch is 2 seconds back. Marty.
And Cole Pearn has told Martin Truex Jr. the fastest car on the track is the 18. He's running above that top scene. So you see Martin in 3 and 4 move all the way up. But Jeff, he has to defend the 4 car who's running low. So tough balance for the 78 right now.
He just has to make the best lap time he can make, I think, because it's not just a battle to Kevin Harvick. You just heard Kyle Busch. He's been the fastest car on the racetrack, and there he is in the screen. And remember, most of this race, that 18 car has been exceptionally fast on long runs. They have to assume it's going to be the same way on this run.
Well, he's catching visually. Forget timing and scoring. Just looking out the window, looking right here out of the 18 car, you can see the leaders getting closer.
Pushing it for everything it's worth. Dave.
Here comes Kyle. This is the kind of thing a gritty champion goes after. He's got to face a first-time, a guy who hasn't won a championship yet and won in front of him. But Kyle, having been here before, knows how to track him down. And think what he did in 2015. Came back from injury, came back a stronger person and a better driver. Made him the best playoffs ever and won the championship. This has been a struggle from the restart, but here comes the 18.
Listen to the 18 radio.
8 over. Hit your marks, inch by inch, just like we've done all year long. Those guys will be worried about each other. Run your race.
Adam Stevens letting him know it ain't over. As he continues to run that high line and the fastest laps.
And he has a huge run on the 4 of Kevin Harvick right here. He's going to make up a ton of time in traffic.
Kelly.
Kevin Harvick's called himself an underdog, said they're playing with house money, but also said his confidence has been as high as it's ever been. Tim Fidoa, a spotter, telling him to try different lines from the guys that he's racing against right now.
The gap closing now between the 18 and the 4. Just a matter of time before Kyle Busch gets by Kevin Harvick. He had an over 2-second deficit that he was battling against Martin Truex Jr. and now taking second away from Kevin Harvick.
This is what we've seen. This 18 car is so fast on long runs. 18 to go.
Kevin Harvick almost didn't put up a fight. I think he knows his best chance is to get the 18 to race the 78. Maybe they'll make contact. Maybe they'll slow each other down.
Doing fine, inch by inch.
I love the coaching by Adam Stevens. So calm, so direct.
And now we're seeing the 78, Martin Truex Jr. right up against the wall. He was told earlier that the 18 was turning the fastest laps, and he was running up high. Now the 78 right up against the wall. Marty.
And Rick, remember the radio we played earlier? Cole Pearn said it's too early to run the wall. He just told Martin that lap, it's time, run the wall. So that's where he's gone to see if they can find a little extra speed in this 78 and hold off the 18. Cole told him that's the only thing you're racing, that 18 right now.
Well, to make it even more complicated, behind Kevin Harvick, I think just passing Kevin Harvick, the 42 of Kyle Larson. Not a championship contender, but perhaps the fastest car on the racetrack.
And remember in practice when the 78 car Martin Truex went to the wall, put his car directly against it. It wasn't long before he hit it. And when he hit it, they had a lot of damage. You can see Kyle Larson may have just touched it a little bit.
Larson trying that fast line around Homestead-Miami. The 18 drifting up higher as well. Martin Truex Jr. now 15 laps to go.
And Kyle Busch, the fastest car. A 10th and a half faster that lap. Now he went to the bottom of the racetrack.
Dove to the bottom and trying to make up ground. He'll drift up high.
You heard Martin Truex Jr., I need help. These lap cars are slowing him down too much.
He wants the spotter to communicate with the spotters of these lap cars to make sure that they clear a lane for him.
Look at this run.
And he's getting very frustrated, guys. He's asked, he said, come on to the 27 a moment ago, asking Clayton Hughes, his spotter, please work harder on these guys to get them out of my way.
What's Kyle Busch going to do now, though? Is he going to defend the 42 or let the 42 go to try to continue to attack the 78? Because the 42, as he comes into the picture, into the wall a little bit, but still carrying momentum.
Huge momentum for Kyle Larson, as now he's moved up into third, and he's going to be a factor in this race. Could he be a factor in the championship? Martin Truex Jr. trying to hold off the 18 of Kyle Busch. The laps continue to wind down. The gap is gone now between the 78 and the 18.
Make it count.
Middle of the track for the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. Putting a little distance between himself and that 18. Kyle Larson staying right up against the wall.
And we've seen how difficult it is to pass on this racetrack. I think that's going to be the key. Can Kyle Busch get to him at the right time? And what is the impact of Kyle Larson? Kyle Larson has the fastest car on the racetrack. Will he separate these two?
How will he affect the top two right now running for a championship? Now, 12 laps to go. Down to the bottom of the racetrack. Kyle Busch right along the white line.
Gain tons of ground through the middle of the corner, but as they go down the straight, you'll see the 78 of Truex pull back away.
Spotter's telling him bottom line is not going to work, not for the exit.
That's the key. That bottom works great through the middle, but you just can't carry that speed on exit, Dave.
And the 42, he talked about it. He could just get to Miami. He thought he could win this race, win a championship. Has had a DNF in the last 4 races. I think he could care less about these front two racing for a championship. He's trying to win a race at Miami.
Yeah, Kyle's got to put his race car where it's the fastest. He's got to not worry about Kyle Larson. He's got to not really even worry, it sounds crazy, about Truex. It's about lap time. What's the fastest way around this racetrack to close this gap?
Fight for a championship between the 78 and the 18. Kyle Larson trying to finish on a high note by just winning the race. The championship on the line. The 78 of Martin Truex Jr. now under 10 laps to go. The gap 0.6 of a second separating Truex Jr. and Busch.
Good job by Martin Truex.
A little better.
Good job by Martin Truex Jr. getting up to the wall, finding a way to get his car a little bit quicker.
Is this a respect move out of Kyle Larson right now? He was the fastest car. Is he laying back saying, you know what, I don't want to affect this championship?
I am surprised he hasn't been able to get to the bumper of the 18.
It's a difficult spot for Kyle Larson to be in. You don't want to be part of this championship story. You want to win the race, but you don't want to be the reason someone lost the race or lost the championship.
Truex Jr. still able to stay in front of Kyle Busch.
At that lap, Kyle Busch got through 1 and 2 much better than Truex did.
Here he comes. Kyle Busch closing the gap. It was 0.6 of a second. Then down to 0.4 of a second.
Keep his mirror full here.
Inch by inch. 0.3 of a second now.
Heard the spotter say keep his mirror full. That's just simply put pressure on him, try to force him into a mistake.
Top 3 cars, 2 running for a championship. Kyle Larson trying for a race win. A little bit lower line by the 18. He's closing in. As soon as he gained a little bit, Martin Truex Jr. pulled back away.
This is the end of the racetrack. The 18 looks better, Jeff. 1 and 2, he looks better than the 78. The opposite in 3 and 4. I think the 78 is a touch better.
78 way loose on corner entry.
Little loose for Truex Jr. Kyle Busch not able to take advantage, though.
Look how much these cars are moving around. These drivers are getting everything there is.
Less than 3 minutes to go in the 2017 season. It all comes down to these final laps. And once again, it could take a win to win the championship. One just has to finish in front of the other for the championship. But right now, they're running 1 and 2 around this track. 5 laps of racing to go.
Kyle Busch changed his line completely and wanted the 2 that time all the way against the wall.
And the gap a little bit wider between the 78 and the 18. A little lower line once again by Kyle Busch. Drifts out to the wall. The 42 of Larson staying in check back in 3rd. Now all the way to the bottom of the track for Kyle Busch. Will this move work?
He's thrown everything he has at Martin Truex Jr. right now, and he's just going to have to do something different. The things that he wants to do are not working, so you can see he's down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Trying to get the nose of the 18 close enough to the 78 to challenge him for the lead. 3 laps of racing to go. And again, the 18 dives to the bottom of the track. Now lap traffic coming into play. Here comes the 42, using that momentum on the high side. Now Kyle Larson gets to the back bumper of the 18. So much adversity the 78 team has gone through as we see the 42 into the wall. This entire season, it's been one thing after another. 2 laps of racing to go as Martin Truex Jr. looking for his first championship. I mentioned earlier, Barney Visser, owner of the team. A heart attack, surgery, watching from home. Longtime girlfriend of Martin Truex Jr. has continued to battle cancer. Sherry Pollux watching intently as they come to the final lap. 1 lap to go, presented by Credit One Bank. The gap still a half a second. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch running 1 and 2. For the final time, they'll go down the backstretch. Martin Truex Jr., 12 years in the Cup Series, and his roller coaster career is finally reaching the peak, putting an exclamation point on a near perfect season. Martin Truex Jr. is the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series champion. Sherry Pollux. And again, he had to win the race to win the championship. Martin Truex
Congratulations,
Jr.
Martin. You are the champion. Come on down here and celebrate with your team. After that, celebrate.
That's Richard Buck, director of the Monster Energy Cup Series, letting Martin Truex Jr. know he's done it for the first time. He will now be called a champion. This moment presented by Sunoco, fueling victories all season long. And this might be one of the best burnouts we'll ever see. Mob scene around Martin Truex Jr. Cole Pearn makes it to him.
Martin, I got a present for you that says 2017 Monster Energy Cup Series champion. You told me all week long you wanted it for you wanted it for the team, and Sherry didn't like when you said it, but you wanted it for her. How much of this season was for her, Martin?
A lot of it was for her, a lot of it was for me. A lot of it was for this team. It's just, I don't even know what to say. We just never gave up all day long. We didn't have the best car. I don't know how we won that thing. Never give up, dig deep. I told my guys we were going to dig deeper than we ever have today. And 20 to go, I thought I was done. They were all better than me in the long run all day long. And I just found a way. I found a lane that I could use, and I found a lane that was blocking enough of their air that they couldn't use it. And it was just made it happen. I can't believe it. I've wanted this since I was a little kid, and just never give up, man. Never give up on your dreams, no matter what happens, what kind of crap you go through. But thank you, Barney. I wish you were here, buddy. Thank you, Johnny. All our partners this year. What can I say about this team? Cole Pearn, Jazzy, Pete, all the road guys, the guys in Denver. You guys are the best, man. They worked their guts out for me, and I don't even know. This is unbelievable. Dream come true. I don't even know. I couldn't even talk on the caution lap, so just really thankful, really grateful. Thank you to fans, and we're going to party it up tonight.
The tears from all the work to get here and all the road to get here. At one point, you thought your career was over, Martin.
It's just overwhelming to think about all the rough days and the bad days, the days that we couldn't run 20th. To be here, I never thought this day would come, and to be here is just it's unbelievable.
For the first time ever, we get to say that you're a Cup Series champion, and these fans are loving every second of it, Martin.
Thank you guys so much. All your support helps us, pushed us through tonight. Helped Sherry with her battle, all the positive info and the positive mojo. We couldn't do it without the fans, and I couldn't do it without this team. I couldn't do it without Sherry. All the support, you guys here, NBC, Fox, earlier in the year. Was just a dream season, and I was going to be gutted if we didn't win, but I was still going to know that we gave it our all, and luckily it was enough tonight.
There you go. We don't see you in victory lane tonight. We see you at the championship stage. See you there in a minute.
Can't even believe it. Thank you, guys.
Martin Truex Jr., Rick, 2017 Cup Series tie champion.
He mentioned Barney Visser, Sherry, longtime girlfriend, and the fights that they've been able to battle through past few years, past few seasons. And now, the regular season champion has capped it off. He is the Monster Energy Cup Series champion. This isn't going to end anytime soon either. Celebrating a championship for Martin Truex Jr. The other story, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s career comes to an end as far as being a driver. He came up congratulating the 78. Dale Earnhardt Jr., the son of a legend, to Daytona 500 champion and now one of the sport's biggest icons. Dale Earnhardt Jr. did it on his own terms, and we say thank you to Dale Earnhardt Jr. for an incredible career.
You see right here, Dale Jr. looks like he's presenting the helmet to Rick Hendrick. I know Rick Hendrick has said that he's going to give the car to Dale Jr., but that relationship there is way, way deeper than owner and driver.
You see the bear hug there by Dale Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. there. And congratulations from wife Amy. Dale caught up with him, or excuse me, Dave caught up with him moments ago.
Well, with that little bit of business taken care of, does that complete it, Dale? Oh, that I said that too. Yeah.
Cheers, buddy. I had a lot of fun tonight, man. I got in the fence late. We were running pretty decent. We had a lot of problems with the car, but Greg made some great adjustments, and we got the car running pretty good. And right up on the fence when the sun went down, I knew our car was going to come in, and so that was pretty fun. I hate to hit the wall because we'd have finished a little bit better. We lost about 10 spots getting that flat, but the deal I had with Rick was that if I finished the race with the car in one piece, I get the car and he gets the helmet. So yeah, so I'm gonna take this thing back home. It's got a little scuff here and there. We ran into Truex on the back straightaway because we high-fiving him with our race car. And proud of him, man. What a story for Martin. I love it. I mean, we're retiring and Martin wins the championship. That's a storybook. So hope all the fans enjoyed this season. I know wasn't everything we wanted on the racetrack, but we sure had fun off of it, and gonna miss everybody. But we'll be back.
Can you describe on the cool-down lap what was going on inside, Dale?
I was happy for Martin. I was like, man, I'll catch up there to him and run into his car. I think everybody was running into him. So, you know, I was just thinking about Martin, really. But I knew that I'd finished this race, so we was going to meet on pit road with his cooler and have some beers with my team. These guys are like my brothers, and we really fight for each other, lean on each other, and these are the friendships that I'll have long beyond my racing days. And so this is a good moment with them.
They coming on the road with us?
Are they coming on the road?
With NBC.
Oh, with next, I don't know. They're
still working, right?
A lot of them still going to be working on this car for Alex next year, and he's getting him one hell of a crew. So these are top shelf, top-notch guys, man.
The last lap's been Rundale. What's it like?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure what the feeling is. I didn't have any real. I didn't cry until I was hugging Rick's neck, man. He's been like a father to me, and the things that he's done for me, personally and professionally, but the personal stuff, you know, he's really helped me more than anybody will ever know. And he's done that for a lot of people, and so I will miss trying to make him proud, you know. And I know I'll still be able to do things that will make him proud because he's like a daddy, but I'll miss driving his cars and trying to make him proud on the racetrack.
Dale, people came from thousands of miles to watch you race one last time. You gave him a thrill, really.
Well, I don't know. We hope they enjoyed it, and they got to see a great race there at the end. I was sitting there right behind that, watching that, and it's pretty exciting. We'll be at the racetrack a little bit with our Xfinity stuff next year. We'll run a couple races, so say hey to everybody when we come back and do that. And obviously we're going to be in the booth, but we'll be around, and still want to have a purpose in this sport. You know, after driving, you got to find something you're passionate about, something that matters to you, and I think I might have found that with broadcasting, and obviously still only in junior motorsports. We're going to be competitive, and competitor inside you will still be on fire and trying to keep that team going. I just texted with Ellie Sadler all morning about, like, man, we're going to come back next year. You just get your head right over the off season. We're coming right back here to try to win that thing again, because you know, because we want to be a part of this sport as long as we can. We really do. It's time for somebody else to get this car. It's a great opportunity for Alex, and I'm excited to see what he can do. But we definitely want to be a part of the sport no matter what.
Well, on behalf of all of us who kind of grew up with you in this sport, thank you. You provided us the life's work.
Thank you so much. And again, congratulations to Martin. No matter who won that championship tonight, we had 4 amazing race car drivers that would have represented the sport. But I am happy that Martin did it. What an accomplishment for his life. I've known him so long, man, so I'm glad to see him accomplish that for himself and his family. Incredible.
Dale Jr., the final ride at Homestead.
Truex Jr. got his start because of Dale Jr. He gave him a shot. And now Martin Truex Jr. is going to be making his way to the championship stage. A reminder, coverage is going to continue here on NBC until 7 o'clock, and then 2 hours of coverage, post-race coverage, and hashtag victory lap will be on NBCSN starting at 7 o'clock. So plenty of coverage from Homestead-Miami Speedway about this championship. The race and the championship won by Martin Truex Jr. The reality hitting. Now Martin Truex Jr. What he has accomplished. At the end of the regular season, Martin Truex Jr. had a frustrated look on his face because he didn't win the race at the end of the regular season. Now, as the playoffs have come to an end and the championship 4 have been decided, Martin Truex Jr. will have a smile on his face for a long time. fireworks in the background. So many incredible moments that we have seen out of the 78 team, and Martin Truex Jr. worthy of that fireworks display.
Barney Visser at home recovering from his heart surgery. Be careful, Barney.
That's right.
Don't get too excited. What a great thing for a guy like that from Colorado, starting this team, single car team out of Colorado. No one gave him a shot when he started this of being successful. Here they are as champions.
So many people questioned, can you run a team that's not in the Southeast, that's not in the North Carolina area, be successful? Well, Martin Truex Jr., that was the 8th win this year, winning this race, and now capping off the season and winning the championship. Let's go to the stage and Chris Devoto.
As the champion makes his way to the stage, more hugs, more handshakes. Now let's start to make it official. The team that just wouldn't quit. And it's not just the driver, it is the team. For the formalities, first we start with Vice President of Sports Marketing for the new series sponsor, Monster Energy, the first year, the first Monster Energy champion, Mitch Covington, to congratulate our new champion.
Thank you, Krista. On behalf of Monster Energy, all of our thousands of employees and fans around the world, I want to congratulate Martin Truex to being the very first Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series champions. We're really proud of you. You had a hell of a year. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, the fans. This is awesome. My dream come true. I've been wanting this since I was a kid racing go-karts, and I can't believe it. Wouldn't be able to do without this team with Monster. Everybody at NASCAR, thank you, and everybody that makes this possible. Thank you.
All right, you have a very heavy trophy we're about to get to. For those honors, I know, not yet. We're going to bring in NASCAR CEO and Chairman Brian France for the presentation.
Martin, on behalf of millions of fans all over the world, that was quite a year. Unbelievable, the most wins, and in dramatic fashion tonight. Congratulations, and well earned for your first Monster Energy Championship.
Thank you, sir. Can I pick up the trophy now?
I'm going to take this because I think you're going to need both hands to lift this 68-pound Monster Energy trophy. Let's go ahead and get him here for the photo. And it seems appropriate that Martin lifts the trophy with his crew chief, Cole Pern. It takes two guys to lift that trophy because it takes the entire team to win a championship. And we have been with you all season. We have documented so much of what you guys have been able to fight through both on the track and off. You're going to lose your voice tonight, Martin, because you have a lot of talking to do. But the first thing I saw you do as you went crazy in the car was just sort of grab your helmet and try to take in the moment. What is that moment like?
I don't even know. I was a mess. I didn't know. I couldn't even talk. I was a wreck, thinking about all the tough days, the bad days, the times where I thought my career was over with, the times when I didn't think anyone believed in me. But the guys, the people who mattered did, my fans, my family. And then when I got with this team, they're unbelievable. And they resurrected my career, made me a champion. I don't even know what to say.
And we talk about the team element. You have documented the fact that you guys felt so strong, so put together. The scruffy playoff beards are just an example of your style and how you approach things. You guys have been through a lot. I know you have a team member named Jim Watson who is looking down on this right now. All the fans and folks in Colorado who have cheered you on. What does this mean to them, and the guys behind you?
This means the world. Barney Visser, 11 years of working towards this goal, and he couldn't be here tonight. We're definitely thinking about him and wish he could be here. I know he's probably about as much in shock as I am. But Jim Watson, Cole's best friend, Sherry, everybody battling something. This one's for you guys. All my buds back in New Jersey, all my Wall Stadium guys back there, thank you. And this is just, I don't even know how to put this into words. It's not sunk in yet. Tonight's going to be a hell of a party.
Well, I want to bring in Cole, too, and I know Sherry's over there. If we can get Sherry over here. Johnny Morris is back here. Cole, I've talked to Martin, and it's been documented. You guys are a team through and through. When it comes down, though, to just one race, like Martin has told us, it doesn't matter the stats, that you've led every category all year long. It comes down to this moment. How did you channel that into your driver, into your team, to be able to all be standing here tonight?
We focused on this race for a long time. You know, we knew kind of if we were going to be champions, we were going to have to get a lot better here. And it took, I don't know, I can't think the number of hours of everybody put into this car and into this race, you know, coming here and testing. And, you know, just there's a lot of wives on our team that'll be happy that this car made it and did what it did. And it took every hour of it, you know. We had to race 3 other great guys, and the 18 was really good there. And to be able to pull it off, I mean, I think they were honestly a little better than us. And Martin just, Martin was able to dig down and get it, and unbelievable. I don't really know how to comprehend it at this point. So just so stoked for all those guys to put the effort we have in all year, and to be able to truly call ourselves champions is unbelievable.
You talk about all those wives. Are they going to be glad these playoff beards get to go away too?
I am too. I think a lot of people look up and tell me, and they're like, man, you look a lot older. And I'm like, oh, that's never what you want to hear. But either way, yeah, we'll be happy to get rid of these beards. But they did their trick, and it just kind of shows the unity of our team. And unbelievable. I can't believe. I'm more unbelievable that we're champions, that we won 8 races, and we won at Homestead is just ridiculous.
I know your fans from Canada, you mentioned New Jersey, Colorado. What about Southern Regional High School is probably celebrating? Let's bring in Sherry as well. I know Johnny Morris is over here, and I know we want to talk to you too, but if we could get Sherry over here. Sherry, I know you congratulated Martin as soon as he got out of the car. What did you say to him in that moment?
I mean, I told him that's why you never give up, because these guys are so cool. That's been our motto all along, ever since I started my cancer battle. It's just, we were never going to give up. And we didn't.
And I know those words mean so much. It's not just on the track. Those are words for anyone out there in life, as Martin said, who's battling something. I think that's what makes this team so relatable, overcoming adversity, everyone out there dealing with something. And you have taken something that is tough, very tough, that you've gone through, and turned it into a triumph in the way you guys live your life and the perspective that you have. How has that helped, I think, just raise you on those bad days to this moment right now?
Yeah, well, I think to his point, you know, everybody's battling something. Everybody's fighting something in their life, or not just cancer, but just any kind of struggle that they're going through in their life. And we always say, if you can fight a struggle with a positive attitude and just have a smile on your face and find the good and the silver lining in everything, in the end, you'll come out and karma will pay you back, and good things will happen to you. So we try to do as much as we can with our foundation, and Sherry's Strong to help other people. And I keep telling Martin, if we continue to do that, good things will happen to us, and this is the best thing that could happen.
Well, I'm going to leave you with 2 words of advice, and I think you know what they are. Tonight, make sure you be present.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
We talk about that all the time. Sherry's going to celebrate with Martin. Johnny, if we have a moment, too. You gave that big hug to Martin. I'm going to switch sides with you. We've been talking to everybody on this side. Let's put you right here. What does this mean to you? I know you've been through a lot of moments with a lot of different, you know, you've got your affiliation with NASCAR is long, strong. There it is. Why is this one so special? Is it the team? Is it the driver? Is it the way they fight adversity?
Everything. It's like we love this sport. We started with Martin when he came into Busch Series, and he's become a great friend. And his dad and Barney and Sherry, and I don't know. To me, this is like everybody in our company. It's a symbol of teamwork and pride, and it's just a very happy time, happy day.
It is very much so, and I think it's going to be a very happy night as Martin Truex Jr. becomes the 32nd different Monster Energy Cup champion. Rick?
Thanks, Krista. I think we heard it best from Martin Truex Jr., never give up. There was a time in Martin Truex Jr.'s career when he didn't know if he'd be able to drive in the Monster Energy Cup Series ever again, and now he's the champion.